That was really close, Emo thought. The nun had caught up to him really quickly. He only managed to be a bit faster than her, even while flowing downstream. If it weren't for the raft, perhaps he would have even been caught. Are you talking to me? The herb picker slowed down. Yes. Have you seen anyone nearby? Jeshua asked. No, I've been around the area collecting herbs, but I didn't see anyone. Do you need my help? This herb picker was very kind-hearted. As Emo began to worry about Jeshien asking the man to row to the bank, Jeshien asked, Big brother, can you carry all of these cradles of herbs yourself? Just one cradle must be very heavy, right? The herb picker smiled. He grabbed 2 cradles in each hand, lifted all 4 and said, They are very light. Master, would you like me to take you dash? But before he finished the sentence, he realized that the nun was gone. If she hadn't replied a moment ago, he would have thought it was a ghost. The herb picker shook his head and kept singing as he rafted down the stream. Luckily, the nun was inexperienced and only considered Emo could be hiding in the herb baskets. An hour later, the raft stopped at a village. Emo looked up subconsciously and saw that the place he was in was a very remote place. However, a faint smoke rose through the sky, giving off a serene feeling. There were around 20 to 30 families in the village, together with the occasional noises from chickens and dogs, and there was only one road. If your goal was to hide, no one would find you there. The village gave Emo an indescribable feeling. He subconsciously felt like he shouldn't leave the place and stay there to cure his wounds. Uncle Wang is back. A few kids waved to the herb picker. A middle-aged woman just finished washing a basket of clothes, and as she saw the man on the raft, she said, Old Wang, it seems you found quite a lot today. Hee. I found a wild ginseng today. I don't need to go up for a few months, the man said happily. Io, let me see. The woman quickly ran up to the man to see the ginseng. Emo couldn't hear the rest of their conversation, and seeing the two leave, he carefully crawled out of the water and onto the banks. He was very weak and felt pain everywhere in his body. He knew that if he didn't find a place to recover, the consequences would be unpredictable. After using all of his power, he struggled to one corner of the village and noticed a house 200 meters away. This house was built on higher ground and seemed a little distant from the rest of the houses in the village. Emo thought for a bit and decided to go to that solitary house. He didn't dare let anyone see him. Who knew if the nun wouldn't stumble upon the village as well? Emo saw from the door that there were no people inside and carefully creeped in. He wanted to find some food and get a change of clothes. His clothes were all in rags, but Emo could only rejoice that he had managed to escape from Jiexien. If it wasn't for that bear, who knew what the nun would be doing to him by then? There weren't a lot of things in the room, but it was clean. Emo almost didn't believe it was just a small house in the middle of nowhere. It was so clean. The thought crossed his mind for only a brief moment as he needed to find food. There was a table and simple chair outside, but no food. Emo walked inside the house and found a bedroom, a bed and a mat. Emo suddenly felt this layout to be very familiar. Luo Ying's room in Serenity had also been laid out like that. Thinking about Luo Ying, Emo's heart seemed to be wrenched. He didn't want to keep staying there. It just made him think of Luo Ying. But when he turned around, he was shocked as if by lightning. Near the window, there was a stone pool. He knew that pool all too well. It was the one he gave to Luo Ying in the desert. Was this where his master Luo Ying lived? Emo wanted to scream Susu, but he couldn't. He felt his body shaking. Susu was here? This was where she lived? Emo stared dumbly at that stone pool and wanted to touch it. But suddenly, he couldn't move anymore. It was as though he froze. He had no more thoughts, no more movements, no more pain. The only thing left in his world of view was the stone pool. He wanted to grab it and tell Susu he was back. After a long while, Emo recovered his motion capability and shifted over carefully. Once he grabbed the stone pool, his thoughts froze again. He felt that he wasn't able to control his tears. He had never in a moment in his life been so unable to control his emotions. At that moment, a young woman wearing linen clothes was carrying a small basket and walking towards her house. And when she saw that her door was open, she quickly ran in. When she saw Emo touching the stone pool, she was quite dazed. Extreme anger could be seen erupting from her eyes, as though the most cherished thing in her life had been taken. Emo looked up at the woman, her hair was coiled up, there was a veil covering her face, and her eyes were clear but angry. Seeing those familiar eyes, Emo froze. Susu. It really was Susu. He wanted to talk, but he couldn't say anything and could only keep tearing. The angry woman saw Emo cry and stopped her anger. Who was this man? Why did he rush into her home and into her room? He was covered in wounds. There were gashes all over his face, and his clothes were ragged. What was this person doing? Why was he crying when she was about to get angry? Why did his eyes seem familiar? What was that emotion she saw in them? Longing? Excitement? Worry? She could feel the man's heartfelt emotions, but she couldn't forgive him for barging into her room. No one in the village would do that because this was her place. Who are you? Why did you come to my house? Please leave. No, hey, leave. Seeing Emo touch the stone pool again, she finally couldn't resist her anger. Emo couldn't talk and couldn't hear anything, but he could see the anger on her face and suddenly felt dizzy. Emo was too excited and heavily injured, so he finally collapsed the moment he saw Luoying. The woman, who had been getting quite angry, saw him faint and quickly ran to check his injuries. She immediately realized it was because of her. Although she didn't know who the man was, she did feel like they'd met before. The man had been touching that stone pool. Only she and Emo knew the meaning of it. Was this man Emo? The woman was dazed. As she remembered the look in his eyes, it really was somehow similar to Emo. Was he actually Emo? She unveiled her mask to reveal an out-of-this-world face. It was the very Luoying Emo had been looking for such a long time. She carefully studied the man on the ground. At least in his current unconscious state, he didn't really look familiar. She felt his face and didn't notice any marks of appearance-changing tricks. So perhaps she was thinking of Emo too much and was mistaken? Although she was disappointed, she still carried Emo out and took out some herbs to put on Emo's wounds. Then she made a soup and fed Emo. His body was strong, so he should be fine. Although his dantian was damaged and he was heavily wounded, his strong physique due to years of cultivation still showed its properties. It might have been just some normal herbs, but Emo's body did still digest most of it. He opened his eyes and found himself still in that room, but his wounds were much better. Luoying had saved him, huh? Right, Luoying. Had she recognized him in the end? Emo was shocked and immediately got up to see whether Luoying was there. He had finally found Luoying. He didn't want to lose her again. As Emo looked up, he saw Luoying being busy outside as she was making a small hut. There was a cauldron nearby with herbs inside. Emo smiled bitterly. It would seem that Luoying wanted to move him to the other room once he woke up. He was Emo. He had to tell her somehow. Although he couldn't speak or hear, he could write. Emo crawled up. Other than feeling a little hungry, he was much better than yesterday. Even if he couldn't recover his dantian and spirit sense without special means, he could still recover to a normal person's level. Emo stood at the door and looked dazedly at Luoying's back. Emo didn't dare believe it was real. Watching her slim figure hustling around was a pleasant scene. He didn't dare to interrupt its serenity. He was afraid if he did, it would all vanish into thin air and he would have nothing again. Suddenly, Emo shivered. He saw an extremely cruel pair of eyes staring at him. It was Xianxia. She was stared at him like a ghost. He immediately felt cold sweat doing his neck. He regretted coming here. He had brought a disaster to Luoying. The nun had actually gotten there. It seemed that she had realized he had nowhere to go except there. Xianxia smiled coldly to Emo and looked at Luoying. Her smile was cruel and frosty. Oh no. She hated Luoying too. She probably hated Luoying for saving him and ruining her plans. He wanted to warn Luoying at once, but he couldn't make a sound. Xianxia's whisk was already in the air, so Emo ran in front of Luoying without thinking. When she saw Emo approaching her, she reacted. She was at yellow level after all, and subconsciously took a step back. He didn't manage to cover her. Yet at this moment, The whisk landed on Yimo's back. However, Yimo wasn't a bear, he couldn't block it. Splurge. Yimo spat more blood. The strike had almost shifted his organs, which made his injuries even worse. When she saw him lying on the ground and the nun behind him, Luoying understood that the nun had been trying to attack her, and the man she saved used his body to block it. "Who are you? Why are you attacking us?" Luoying's voice was loud. She was really angry. She came from Serenity. Not even the worst person in the sect would attack a stranger for no reason. Furthermore, she didn't even know that nun. "You shouldn't have tried to save him, you will have to die too." Jiexian's tone was bland, as though it was very reasonable. But instead, Jiexian didn't attack Luoying. She walked to Yimo, wanting to search his body. Seeing this, Luoyu took out a yellow rope and attacked the nun. You've also learnt ancient martial arts." The nun dodged. "Please, leave now. I won't let you touch him." Luoying detested the nun. "Then I'll have to deal with you first. To find a woman as pretty as you in a place like is unusual." Then she attacked again. She didn't even have 1% of her full power, but she thought that although Luoying was cultivating ancient martial arts, she was barely at yellow level. But after fighting with her, she found out that this absurdly beautiful woman was almost the same as her or even a little stronger. If she hadn't been very experienced and hadn't had a lot of moves, perhaps she would have been defeated already. Luoying rarely fought with people, so she was constantly retreating, but as time went by, she became more fluent in her moves and went from a position of disadvantage to an equal one, and finally to having the upper hand. Jiexian knew that her inner chi wasn't enough for her to beat her. She really didn't understand why there would that kind of woman be in this distant place. "You don't even know him. Why are you helping him? If you let me take him away, I can give you an earth-level cultivation method and a black rising pill." Jiexian knew she couldn't beat Luoying and decided to use an alternative method. She would take away Yimo first, and after the nun completely recovered, come back and kill the woman. Luoying didn't say anything and just kept attacking. She didn't know it was Yimo lying on the ground. If she had, she would have tried to kill Jiexian with all her might, even if she offered her the immortal rising pill. Seeing Luoying ignore her, Jiexian got also angry and said, "What do you want? Is it worth it for someone you don't know? Let me tell you, that person took my poison, he only has 49 days to live. If you let me take him, he could still survive. However, if he stays here, he will die for sure." Hearing this, Luoying slowed down her attack, and Yimo happened to open up his eyes at this moment. His body was burning with pain, but he couldn't ease it either. Yimo knew that it wasn't going to end well when he saw Luoying slowing down her attack. Jiexian lowered her whisk and Luoying also put away her rope, but Yimo was worried. He knew how evil this nun was. She had a dagger. She had withdrawn the whisk not to make peace, but to sneakily attack Luoying. Luoying had no fighting experience, so she knew nothing about this. No matter whether Jiexian was going to attack Luoying, in his desperation and worry, he actually stood up again and ran to Luoying. No one was allowed to harm her. The same thing happened again, but this time, Jiexian was sneakily attacking Luoying. However, Yimo was again 1 second faster than Jiexian. The dagger pierced into Yimo's left shoulder, and Yimo, who had barely been able to stand, was catapulted away by the force and fell in front of Luoying unconscious again. Seeing this, Luoying's heart shook for no reason. She didn't have time to think properly, but she got completely angry at that moment. Yimo got hurt twice to save her. She didn't expect this innocent-looking nun to be so sneaky. Without thinking, she used full force as her yellow rope struck Jiexian's dantian. Jiexian didn't expect her killing blow to be blocked by Yimo again. Was he her nemesis or something? Before she could make another move, Luoying's rope struck her dantian. She couldn't even react, and Luoying dealt a truly hard blow. Even if she had been able to react, she wouldn't have been able to dodge that strike with her current strength. Jiexian was dazed and spat out blood as well. Her dantian had been damaged even more with that strike, and she knew that if she didn't leave right then, she would never be able to. Her current state was worse than a normal person's. Jiexian didn't even bother retrieving her dagger and just left. She started considering if Yimo had predicted everything beforehand. She suddenly felt cold and shivered. If that young man really had known something beforehand, then he was too scary. If it weren't for the 2 golden pages, she would rather never confront someone as scary as him again. Luoying quickly helped Yemo up and didn't chase that nun. Seeing this, Jiexian breathed a sigh of relief. Her wounds wouldn't recover for at least a few months. Luoying quickly stopped Yemo's bleeding and was very worried. Yemo felt like his eyelids were extremely heavy as he struggled to open his eyes. He saw a worried look close to his face and thought, Luoying, it really is Luoying. That beautiful face had appeared in his head countless times, and now it finally appeared before his eyes. Yemo was shaking with excitement. Don't move, I will try to save you. And, thank you for saving me. Luoying didn't know how to save Yemo, but she felt his shaking. Yemo sensed the nearby Luoying and wanted to reach out his hand to feel her face. Seeing Yemo's actions, Luoying's face changed. She sneered and put down Yemo heavily. She was really unhappy. She took out a veil, wanting to cover her face. She just wanted this man to be able to move so that he could leave. Yemo suddenly remembered that he had a mask on and that Luoying didn't know him. He resisted the strong urge to faint and thought of using the blood on his shoulders to write something. Seeing this, Luoying took out a white cloth and threw it in front of Yemo but didn't talk. Yemo wanted to look at Luoying again, but he knew his power was limited. He could faint at any moment. After writing the words, he finally couldn't hold on anymore and fell unconscious. Luoying subconsciously took the cloth, and when she saw the words, her mind blacked out. It was as though all her meridians were frozen and she couldn't move. The cloth had 4 words. I am Yemo. Yemo? Really Yemo? Why doesn't his face look like Yemo's? He must have some masquerading technique applied to him, she thought. Other than Yemo, who would have helped her block the attacks from that nun? Other than Yemo, who would cry while touching the stone pool? Other than Yemo, who would cherish her life more than his own? Why was he here? He must have come to find her. If she knew Yemo would get so hurt trying to find her, she wouldn't have left his side. Yemo. Luoying finally reacted and was sure that the person on the ground was Yemo. She cried out his name and fell on Yemo's body before carrying him away. Her tears flew out like an open dam. She suddenly hated herself. Why did she let the nun who tried to kill him go? If she had fought with her life on the line right from the start, would Yemo even have gotten hurt? Luoying kept tearing, and she couldn't forgive herself. Suddenly Luoying woke up from her tragic feelings. Why was she still crying? She needed to save him. Yemo felt that his soul was about to drift away and felt that his spirit was on the verge of collapse. He knew that he was about to die. He tried to force his soul not to drift away, because he couldn't die. Suddenly, a cool feeling entered his mind, after which he felt lazy and fell asleep. He was dreaming about how he found Luoying, brought her back to Luoyu and had the biggest wedding he could with her and Ning Xianxia. Everyone in Luoyu came to wish them well. But when he pulled Luoying and Ning Xianxia into their room, Luoying told him that she had to go back to Luoyu continent and couldn't stay with him. He tried to grab her hand, but she went further and further away. Susu, don't go. Yemo cried out and opened his eyes to see Luoying watch him with a worried face. She could tell that Yemo wanted to talk yet was unable to say anything. You're awake. You're finally awake. Luoying finally saw Yemo open his eyes and hugged him tightly. Master! Yemo called out to her from the bottom of his heart and fell unconscious again. But now, the time it took him to wake up again was really short, and when he did, he tried to raise his hand and feel Luoying's face. Luoying had gotten a lot skinnier. From the worry and tears on her face, Yemo knew that she had been enduring more than him when he was injured. As he finally touched her face, he said, Master, don't worry about me. I'm fine now. Don't cry, but don't leave me again. Although she didn't know what Yemo was saying, Luoying still nodded, as though knowing what Yemo was saying. She helped him up and wiped her eyes, after which she brought over a bowl of congee. She blew on it carefully and fed it to Yemo. Then, she got some water and helped Yemo clean himself, including even brushing his teeth. Susu, the chicken soup is done. You can feed it to the man now. Susu heard a call at the door. She quickly put down her towel after wiping Yimo's face and went out. Anishi, thank you for these last couple of days. And please thank Uncle Wang for that ginseng too. Without your help, Luo Ying took the pot from the lady and spoke gratefully. Don't say that, Susu, you have cured a lot of sick people in our village. This little amount of help is nothing. Don't worry, I'll do what you told me to, the auntie said. Meanwhile, Yimo looked at the bed and inside a room, and to his surprise, the room seemed different. It would seem that there were more celebratory colors. Just as he was wondering why, Luo Ying came in with a blush on her face. Yimo wanted to tell her that they weren't brother and sister at all. When suddenly Luo Ying came over and embraced Yimo's head. Yimo was lost in her faint aroma. Yimo, I don't want to be your master, and I don't want to be your sister. I just want to be your wife, Luo Ying said. Then, she suddenly remembered something and let go of Yimo before writing. I don't want to be your master. Let's get married. I already told Auntie Shi, so when you start being able to get off the bed, we can have a wedding. Then her eyes turned red. She knew that Yimo had been poisoned by that nun, but she didn't know what it was. She wanted to take Yimo out as soon as he was better, and if he really couldn't be cured, she would be his wife for 1 month and accompany him in death. Yimo was dazed. He looked at Luo Ying. Did she know they weren't siblings? But then why hadn't she gone back to find him? Luo Ying looked at Yimo and blushed, but she continued writing, Yimo, right now, I don't want to care about anything. I just want to marry you and be your wife. We can just live here. Yimo stared at Luo Ying surprised. He could only think that she perhaps had realized that Xianxia had lied to her. However, that wasn't the case, yet she still wanted to marry him. The celebrational colors in the room were what she had set up for the wedding, right? Why was she in such a rush? Couldn't she wait until he got better? He still wanted to bring her back to Luo Ying and have the wedding there. Do you want to marry me? Luo Ying wrote down with a hopeful look in her eyes. Yimo stood up a bit and wrote, Master, of course I want to marry you. I'm actually not related to you, Xianxia lied. Luo Ying smiled and leaned on Yimo. She assumed Yimo was comforting her. But it didn't matter to her. Since she had thought it through already, she didn't care. Moreover, she often dreamed that she had met Yimo in their past life. Yimo only had 2 months left to live. She loved him and he loved her. When he died, she would die next to him. It was her greatest fortune to be able to die with Yimo. Don't call me master. I am going to marry you. I want to be your wife. Luo Ying wrote. Okay. Susu, you're really not related to me. My sister is called Bei Wei. She's in Ninghai right now. She's also from Luohong Temple. I will marry you. I want you to be my wife. Yimo could tell that Luo Ying still had a moral barrier. Really? Luo Ying looked at Yimo with joy. She stared deeply into his eyes. He wasn't lie to her. Before Yimo could reply, she placed her head on his chest and thanked the heavens. Not only did she get to see Yimo again, but she could also properly marry him. Yimo wiped the tears from her face. He could tell that she had gone through a lot after they got separated. Luo Ying looked up and greeted Yimo's lips. They kissed. The flower scent made Yimo give in passionately. Their warmth made them forget about time, until Luo Ying realized that she was losing herself in his arms. She quickly got away from his embrace and looked outside. It was already dark, so she wrote, You've been unconscious for a few days. Auntie, she brought some soup. I'll heat it and feed you. After you've recovered, we can be together. Yimo suddenly remembered Jiexian and wrote, Susu, we need to get out of here quickly. That old nun won't let us go. She will come back. Luo Ying smiled and wrote, She's heavily injured and will need at least a few months to recover. By that time, we'll be gone. After reading this, he calmed down and wrote, Susu, in a few months I'll take you somewhere else to get married. However, Susu immediately shook her head and wrote, No, it can't wait. I must marry you immediately. Yimo looked at her. He didn't know why she had to marry him immediately, but he had promised Ning Qingxue that they'd get married together. How could he tell her this? Before Yimo could respond, Luo Ying kissed him and went to make food. He looked at her and felt warm inside. Since she wanted to get married, then so be it. He already had a marriage certificate with Ning Qingxue anyway. He would just celebrate it when they got back to Luoyu. The fact that Jie Xian was injured was quite convenient. In a few months' time, he could help Luo Ying reach stage 1 and then help him take out the things in his ring. Or he could make Bei Wei come. Emo had just woken up, but he was still too weak. He only took a few sips of the soup and fell asleep again. When he woke up again, it was already noon of the second day in her house. Luo Ying wasn't at home. In just one day, she had managed to cover the room in red, and a huge board with the word Zhouwei had been placed on the door. Emo looked at all of this dazedly. It was as though he had gone back to Luoyu, the time when his master used to teach him how to concoct pills side by side. Now, he was finally going to marry her after all the hardships they had gone through. In your previous life, you were my master and took care of me. In this life, let me be your master and let me take care of you, Emo thought. He took out a piece of paper and wrote on it the first level of cultivation method on it. In the depths of the Duanheng ranges, a very shabby-looking nun sat on a rock. Her face was very scary. The things she had planned kept encountering problems. The only good point was that she knew he probably had the golden page. Yet he was too calculative and too lucky. If it hadn't been for that girl, she would be interrogating him right now. However, not only did she not capture him, but she had also lost her chi stone. That stone was very precious and important for achieving Great Heaven Stage. Even though she believed she could still reach Great Heaven Stage without it. This time she was injured heavily. She wouldn't be able to recover completely for a few months, but she only needed a month to recover a third of her power. She had some pills too. Once she recovered to a 30% of her power, that beautiful woman would be no match for her at all. Once she captured her, she would let her know the consequences of offending her. At the same time, the political scene at Hedong was going through a big storm. More and more people had gotten involved, and it was all due to a small case. After realizing the will was fake and the judge had been helping them cover up, Li Chunxing got involved to deal personally with the case. But although the results hadn't come out yet, everyone in the political scene knew that Li Chunxing's future wasn't going to be bright. Li Chunxing sat in his office smoking with a frown. He wouldn't have thought that such a simple case could bring so many problems. However now, not only could he not contact Emo, but the Beijing Li family couldn't help him either because they couldn't even help themselves at the moment. Li Chunxing's phone calls and actions were all being monitored. Lin Village was located at the foot of a mountain in the Duanheng ranges and was completely segregated from the world. There were only about 30 families there. The government had been planning on developing tourism there, but due to some issues it was never put into action. The area was very beautiful. There were mountains and rivers all around. The Lin River continued on into the New River, and further upstream from the village there were valleys that had a lot of natural herbs. They were the main source of income for the people in this village. Today, the village was in a celebrational vibe because the very person who had taught the people how to recognize herbs and taught them all sorts of medical knowledge, Susu, was going to get married. Susu is really pretty, like a goddess. Yeah, I've seen a lot of celebrities on TV, but none as pretty as Susu. But doesn't her husband look pretty average? He doesn't fit with Susu. Why do you care? It's fine as long as Susu likes him. That young fella is very nice. After Susu was reunited with Emo, she took off her veil, and everyone in the village was shocked by her otherworldly beauty. Emo was also extremely excited. He could finally walk together with Luo Ying hand in hand. The people in the village were genuine and didn't have all sorts of rules and customs like in the city. They just gathered to celebrate and wished the newlyweds good luck. Emo and Luo Ying liked that. After a day of celebration, the village finally calmed down. Emo walked into a small room with Luo Ying, who had her head covered with a red veil. This was the place Luo Ying had lived in for 2 years, and now it would be the place she would be living with Emo. The big red candles brightly shone in the room, and Emo excitedly unveiled Luo Ying. Under the bright red candles, Luo Ying's face seemed even prettier as she had that sense of embarrassment that made Emo lose his mind. Susu, you're truly beautiful. Emo couldn't help but want to say. Although his mask had been washed away by Luo Ying with herbs, the poison was still in his body. Although Yimo didn't make any sound, Luo Ying knew what he wanted to say. She felt Yimo's hand swish around and felt a little shaky. The inexpressible feeling of love was seizing her. Hold on dash. Although Yimo couldn't hear her demand, he saw Luo Ying wave out the candles. She knew she would be sleeping with Yimo that night, but she felt too embarrassed with the red candles burning. Although the candles were out, the light from outside still shone in from the window, giving a glow to their eyes which were expressing the pair's deep love for each other. Luo Ying's soft body and faint aroma made Yimo unable to hold himself back. Soon, he saw Luo Ying with most of the clothes she had worn before gone. Luo Ying was like a young lamb squirming in his arms. She only knew how to hug him tightly and let him do whatever he wanted. Although he really wanted to do it, Yimo thought about her cultivation. He had written the first level of a cultivation method for her 3 days before, and it had become clear that Luo Ying did indeed have a spiritual root. He believed that, with the help of the Spirit Stone, she would be able to reach stage 1 within a month. But if he took her virginity now, would it affect her cultivation? If it was due to him that she couldn't reach foundation establishment, then what would he do? Feeling Yimo slow down and stop, Luo Ying embarrassingly looked up at Yimo in confusion. Yimo couldn't use a mind-cleansing chant on himself at that moment, but he loved Luo Ying, and for his love, he could resist any hardship and enticement. I'm afraid that if I were to take your virginity today, it will be hard for you to reach foundation establishment. How about we wait until you reach foundation establishment state, and then we dash. Yimo just managed to write half of his message before Luo Ying took the paper away. Luo Ying shook her head and didn't say anything, but her body was telling Yimo that she just wanted to be with him, that nothing else was important. She knew that if the poison remained in Yimo's body, nothing else would matter anyway. Without the mind-cleansing chant, Yimo could no longer control his feelings for Luo Ying. With some light creaks from the bed, a harmonious scene appeared under the silver moonlight. Luo Ying's body was like a hot stream, getting more and more sensitive with Yimo's charge. She couldn't help but moan as her hand grabbed Yimo's back tightly. It was a little painful at first, but as Yimo slowly kept moving, she didn't want to leave his arms. She wanted to grab Yimo's back tightly, but she was afraid of hurting him. The only thing she could do was embrace Yimo as much as he could handle and give her everything to him. It might have been only Luo Ying's first time, but Yimo wasn't exactly experienced either. He embraced Luo Ying tightly, and he could feel her heart and body shake in pleasure just like him. It was as though at that moment he and Luo Ying had become one. Luo Ying made a final long moan in Yimo's arms and grabbed his back even tighter. In Luo Ying's heart, Yimo was her everything. Yimo made her not only feel love but also longing. Now her body was his, and his warmth was still inside her. In the end, as the night progressed, the creaking of the bed stopped. Yimo lovingly kissed Luo Ying in his arms, before they descended into the realm of dreams together. The call of the rooster broke the silence of the village. Luo Ying opened her eyes and looked at Yimo with gentle eyes. She should have married him earlier. Although it was a little late, but at least she still did it. She carefully touched Yimo's face and suddenly thought, how could 30 days of being together ever be enough? She wanted 300 years, 3,000 years, 30,000 years, or even an eternity with him. For the first time ever, Luo Ying started hating a person to the bones. She didn't even hate Jingxi as much as that Jiexian. If it weren't for her, she would get to live with Yimo forever and give birth to his children. No, she had to find a cure, help her husband cure the poison and live with him forever. The first thing Yimo saw when he woke up was Luo Ying busying about. Even though she was a yellow-level middle-stage ancient martial artist, she still walked a little uneasily after her first night. Yimo got up and felt warm at heart. He just watched Luo Ying silently. No matter what had happened before, she was his wife now. He needed to love and protect her. Time flies when you're happy. They'd been married for almost 10 days. Yimo could feel that Luo Ying constantly had a faint sense of worry, but he didn't want to break the peaceful life they had. So he didn't ask what was going on. But today he felt something wasn't right with Luo Ying. I want to go and find out if there are herbs in the mountain that could heal you. She had noticed that Emo already knew something was going on, so she just told him before he could ask. Do you want to find Jie Xian, the nun? You think she has the cure? Emo asked. At this point, they didn't even need to write. They only needed to look at each other's lips to know what they were saying. Sometimes, even a glance or action could let them understand each other. Luo Ying was dazed. She had understood Yemo's glance. It was as though he knew what she was thinking, but didn't agree. But you're poisoned. Okay. I won't go. I'll stay with you, Luo Ying said and then walked to him so she could brush his hair. She knew that Emo didn't want her to go. She wanted to say that they only had little more than 10 days left, yet she felt this was far from enough. She wanted to be with Emo forever. Emo embraced her and said, Dummy. My poison isn't fatal. I just can't speak or hear. Once you reach stage 1, you can cure me. What? It's not lethal? Luo Ying was dazed. Suddenly fortune was on her side. She even suspected she had read Yemo's lips incorrectly, so she asked again. I said that if you reach stage 1, you can cure me. Emo felt her excitement and caringly wiped her tears as he repeated his words. Luo Ying hugged him tightly with joy. After a while, she looked up and said excitedly, I'm already at stage 1. She wanted Emo to tell her how she could cure him, but she didn't know how to express it. Emo was shook. He hadn't expected Luo Ying to be able to reach stage 1 in less than half a month. Although it was also due to the spirit stone, one could see that she was indeed quite skilled. Emo quickly took out a pen and a piece of paper. He wrote down how to release spirit sense and take things out from the storage ring. When Emo held the bottle of Lotus Life pill, he was actually very calm. For the first time, he felt that everything else was unimportant next to Luo Ying. The paradise he had lived in for the past 10 days made him almost forget there was poison left in his body. With her help, Emo put a pill in his mouth. This pill melted immediately and turned into a spring nourishing his organs and dantian. The damaged dantian repaired rapidly. Luo Ying watched Emo sit down with his legs crossed and recover, but the weight made her anxious. She didn't dare leave him alone and didn't even mind the water boiling outside. She felt her heart beating rapidly. If he recovered, she could stay with him forever. The Bin Suregrass poison wasn't directly affected by the Lotus Life pill. It was just pushed out of his body by his own qi. His external injuries had already been healed under Luo Ying's care, and now his internal injuries were gone too. Qi gradually started to gather and Emo could clearly feel his power rising until it recovered to its original state. Luo Ying saw some kind of white mist rise from the top of Yemo's head with black qi in it. She realized that Emo must have pushed outside the poison. Then, her heart felt like it was going to burst out of joy. She thanked the heavens for letting Emo be all right. A day passed quickly, and when Emo opened his eyes again, it was already dark. Luo Ying sat in front of him, staring without blinking. He could tell that she had been staring at him the entire day, worried about him. Susu, sorry to make you worry. Emo got up and gently cuddled her. She couldn't hold it anymore and cried out in his arms. The torture was finally over. She could hear Yemo's voice now. That meant he was well. I thank the heavens that you're all right, Luo Ying said piously. Emo kissed her. I should be thanking you. It's you. Luo Ying placed her finger on his lips and stopped him. She pointed at the crescent moon. We got married on a full moon. I really liked it, but today I like it even more. Then, I'll take you up to see the moon. Okay? Wow. We're really in the sky. Luo Ying reacted. It felt really familiar, but it was also unimaginable at the same time. We're in the sky right now. Susu, in my dreams from a past life, you were my master and you took me flying in the sky like this. In this life, I will take you to fly. In a previous life, you taught me everything to take care of myself. In this life, let me take care of you and give you everything, Emo said. His words got deeply etched into Luo Ying's heart. She murmured, Past life, this life. Was there really a past life? I keep dreaming about flying in the sky too. Is that real? She caressed Yemo's face, fearing that it was all a dream, but he was concrete and real. The village below was peaceful while she and Emo welded into the dark sky. Whispering in her ear, Emo told her everything about cultivation and what happened after she left. When they returned to the room again, Emo had a sense of familiarity. It was as though she really had taught Emo cultivation in his past life. She had taught him how to concoct pills, medicine, and language. Susu, where did you go after leaving Serenity? When I went to the desert, I found that you had already taken the stone pool away. Emo kept asking all sorts of questions. Luoying touched his hair and said, "When did you start liking me? Was it due to the memories of your past life from your dreams? Do you like the me from my previous life or this life?" Emo looked at her bright eyes and said slowly, "Perhaps it wasn't a dream. Perhaps it was real. The time you were my master, I respected and loved you, but I didn't dare desecrate you. When I realized that was love, it was already too late. It wasn't until that day in the desert that I got to see you again, when you saved me. When I was about to die, you woke me up with your blood. And same. When you carried me to escape from the bugs in the desert and took me to hide in the caves. I knew I couldn't forget about you because I also had my blood in your body. When you gave me that well of water, I knew I had fallen in love with you. When you chased me to Serenity and walked the Sword Mountain for me, I knew I couldn't be without you. I went everywhere afterwards, yet not knowing where I should go. I wanted to secretly visit you, but I was afraid I wouldn't be able to leave after seeing you. One day, Auntie she brought me here and I settled. I stayed at the highest place in the village with the hope of seeing you one day. I would stand here every day for an hour, looking for you. Some time after that, I couldn't resist my longing for you. So I went to the desert and took back the stone pool you gave me. Their voices gradually died down as the two just sat there next to each other until the rooster called again. "It's dawn, huh?" Emo muttered subconsciously. They had sat there for a whole night. Luoying laid in Emo's arms and didn't want to move. Emo suddenly thought of something and took out a small bag for Luoying and said, "Susu, the sect leader of Serenity told me to give this to you. I didn't open it, so have a look what it is." Luoying took the bag and opened it. There were 2 books and a yellow cloth with a date written on it within. "What are these letters? I've never seen them before," Luoying said strangely. Emo took it and was dazed. It was actually the language of Luoyu continent. How could that have found its way to Serenity? "This is your cultivation method, the same as the one I wrote for you," Emo said. "Huh? Then that means what happened in the dream is all real." Luoying took the book shakily. Emo nodded. "It is." He just didn't understand how this could appear on Earth and be acquired by the sect leader of Serenity. The date written on the cloth was April 26th, such a familiar date. Indeed, it was the date Emo transmigrated. "Look at this book." Luoying gave the other book to Emo. Emo flipped through a few pages and felt a heavy feeling of love. As Luoying noticed that, she asked, "What does it say?" Emo answered softly, "Susu, it's your diary from your past life. A lot of things are exactly as I dreamed they would dash." "Huh." Luoying quickly took the book and said, "I'll give it to you when I'm done." Emo nodded. "Perhaps you can remember some things through it. It doesn't matter if you show me or not." Luoying blushed. "I'll let you see for sure. I just don't know if I said anything bad about you in it. You need to teach me this language, though." Emo said softly again, "Of course, like I said, in our last life you taught me, in this life I will teach you. A lot of the words I know were taught by you. But isn't that probably just in your dreams?" "No, I believe it really happened." Seeing Luoying put the book away, Emo suddenly said, "I'll make a storage ring for you later on." He had all the materials already, and Emo attached a diamond to it too, a blue diamond. He felt a little troubled about how to tell Luoying about Xianxia, but luckily he still had a lot of time. The ring was made quickly, and Emo put some necessary recovery and cultivation pills in it before handing it to Luoying. Luoying looked at the ring, and her expression was the same as Xianxia's. The joy in her eyes was unquenchable. The blue diamond and storage capability weren't the main attraction. The main thing was that Emo had made it for her. "Help me put it on." Luoying's voice was shaky. Although she hadn't lived in the city for too long, she still knew what a ring meant. Emo gently put the ring on for Luo Ying. Looking at a Luo Ying unable to stop fiddling with her ring, Emo's heart was filled with warmth. He didn't disturb Luo Ying and took out his phone. He was going to call his sister and Xianxia to tell them he was all right. But as soon as he opened his phone, there was a large amount of texts. Some were from Ning Xianxia and his sister, but most of them were from Li Chunshang and Shixiu. It was all about the case in Jutong City. Chang Chonghui had been taken away, but at the same time, Li Chunsheng said that he needed him urgently. Shixiu's text said the same too. Emo quickly called them, but both of their phones were shut down. Emo texted Bai Wei, Qingxue and Yi Ling first. He decided to go back to Jiutang and see what was going on. How could Li Chunxing not deal with such a simple case and get dragged into some mess instead? What happened, Marshal Brother? Luo Ying found that it sounded much better to call Emo Marshal Brother. Emo was okay with it and said, "Two of my friends in Jiutang are in trouble. I need to go see." "I'm sorry, Susu. I wanted to stay with you for a few more days." Luo Ying felt the ring and smiled. "There's no need to say sorry between us. I'll go wherever you go. I have nothing keeping me here. I'll just take that stone pool away. Also, there's no point in leaving so much money in my ring. I'll give it to Uncle Wang and Auntie Shi for them to split amongst the villagers. The ginseng you ate was from them and the money for the wedding was also all paid by them." Emo smiled and grabbed her hand. "No need. I still have more." It was mostly USD in his ring though, and only about 5 million renminbi. He gave more than 1 million to Luo Ying and took out the rest. The people in the village were very innocent, and the village leader divided the money equally. When Luo Ying and Emo left, everyone in the village went to send them off. They are all good people. Luo Ying and Emo had walked for very long already, yet they could still see people waving their hands at them. "Because you're an immortal goddess?" Emo smiled and said. Emo called Lu Lin as soon as he came to Jutong City, but he couldn't reach her either. Emo decided to buy some clothes for Luo Ying with her and then go to Juha Corporation. He didn't believe that a province-level senator would lose a fair battle. One pale yellow dress with the necklace and ring Emo had given her made Luo Ying feel like an ethereal goddess. Everyone in the clothing store was dominated by Luo Ying's out-of-this-world beauty. Perhaps they had never even seen anyone as pretty as Luo Ying before. "Wait for me for a bit. I need to go buy some things in the supermarket." Luo Ying saw that Emo was on a call and said to him. Emo understood that she probably wanted to buy some women products, so he didn't follow and just waited for her at the door, thinking about what might have happened. Might you be Emo?" An abrupt voice stopped Emo's train of thought. A man in his 30s halted before him, and a girl dressed very revealingly stood next to him. She looked to be somewhere in her 20s, and she wasn't ugly, but Emo didn't like her makeup. The man seemed familiar. Emo soon remembered who he was. He had been his classmate in Ninghai Wang Chu. Wang Chu was very close to Shixiu. In fact, he was one of Shixiu's few close friends. Well, although Shixiu didn't have many friends in university, he still knew more people than Emo. "Wang Chu, why are you here?" Emo asked strangely. You're really Emo? No wonder you looked so familiar. You changed so much that I almost didn't recognize you. Shixiu asked me to come over. He ran into some trouble, and I happened to be working in Jutong. So here I am," Wang Chu said. Just as Emo wanted to ask about Shixiu's situation, Luo Ying's angry voice sounded. Emo immediately went to her. "Miss, Hong Kong Danyu Entertainment is top-notch in the industry. With your looks and our expertise, I'm sure you can become famous all over the world. Even Hollywood would easily be within your grasp." A bald fat man was talking on and on. Emo wanted to laugh. "No need. We're not interested in what you're talking about. So move aside. Let's go, Susu. People like this can be found everywhere. No need to mind them." Emo helped Luo Ying carry her things and pulled her away. "Don't leave. I'm a shareholder of Hong Kong Danyu Entertainment. Friend, your girlfriend is this pretty. It'll be such a waste if dash." The fat man was very agile and ran in front of Emo. Luo Ying frowned. She had already rejected, Yet the man still persisted. Emo grabbed the fat man and threw him away onto a dumpster. The trash came out a bit and splashed across the man's face. What Emo wouldn't have expected was that as soon as he left, the shareholder guy immediately took out his phone and called someone. Uncle Tong. I found a goddess-like beauty in Jiutong. Definitely goddess level. I'm sure she's the prettiest girl in China. Yes, as long as she joins our company will dominate the world. Wang Chu, take me to where you guys are meeting. I haven't seen Xiao in a long time. Emo pulled Luo Ying over to Wang Chu and said. Wang Chu was dumbfounded looking at Luo Ying and reacted only after a long time. Oh, okay. Let's go. He was truly shocked. The woman with Emo was way too beautiful. Emo. This is? Wang Chu asked. Emo smiled. My wife Luo Ying. Susu. This is my former classmate Wang Chu. Luo Ying didn't like to talk to strangers and just nodded. The girl beside Wang Chu was also shocked. To be honest, she had never seen a girl as pretty as Luo Ying. Emo looked very ordinary. How did he get such a good girl? Her confidence was shattered to pieces in front of Luo Ying. Let's go then. By the way, when did Xiao come to Jiutong? Emo asked. It's right over there. Wine City 613. Xiao just told us to wait for him there. He'll be there soon, and I don't know when he came over either. Wang Chu pointed at a luxurious restaurant not far away. Then let's go, Emo answered. Wang Chu walked over to Emo and said in a quiet tone. Xiao seems to have gotten into quite some trouble this time. We want to help him, but the enemy is pretty powerful. If why Sai? Emo shook his head. He knew what Wang Chu was thinking. He meant that if Emo was still part of the Yi family, then things would be good. Emo didn't know Wang Chu much, but from what Xiao had said, he should be quite decent. However, apparently he wouldn't sacrifice himself to help Xiao. Emo also suspected that Wang Chu had stopped staying in touch with Xiao after graduation and only started contact again after Xiao became a mayor. The most luxurious room in the restaurant was 613, but Xiao would never be able to get that room, so he was in room 616 together with some acquaintances. When Emo and company arrived, one clean-looking man just scanned Luo Ying once, but almost everyone else kept their eyes on Luo Ying. There was even a passionate fire in the eyes of two of them. Emo immediately didn't like this. What sort of friends had Xiao brought? Luo Ying was clearly behind Emo, yet they still looked at her like that. With the 6 people already there and the 4 who just arrived, the gathering consisted out of 10 people. There were 2 more whom Emo knew, but they hadn't been in the same class, though. Hello, I'm Shueguiyang, Xiao's blood brother. You are. The clean-looking man walked up to Emo and shook his hand. Emo had heard of this name before. Shueguiyang was very loyal. Xiao had talked about him quite often. I'm Emo, Xiao's friend. Emo shook hands with the man and smiled. Oh, so you're brother Mo. I've heard about you more than once. Shueguiyang looked overjoyed from the bottom of his heart. Xiao had told him that if Emo came, he would be able to help a lot. Emo said, Xiao is my friend, so since you're his friend, just call me Emo. Okay then, Emo it is, I won't be too polite, Suguiyang said. Due to Shueguiyang's obvious respect, the other people in the room got up and also greeted Emo. Shueguiyang was a middle-level manager in Hefeng City. There were 2 others who also worked in Jiutang, and 1 person who had opened a trade company in Jiutang. His name was Mi Feng. One rather tall man was called Lu Yahua, and he worked at Jiutang Hospital. The oldest man present was in his 30s and was called Bai Yoshi. He was Xiao's hometown friend. Why is Xiao still not here even though he invited us here? Lu Yahua commented uncomfortably. Who knows? Oi! Shueguiyang, what happened to Xiao anyway? Bai Yoshi joined. Emo sneered. He knew these people would be too unreliable to expect any help from them. Okay, I'll tell everyone the truth, Shueguiyang said. Xiao ran into some trouble. I believe everyone knows about the Jiutang will case dash. Before Shueguiyang finished, Bai Yoshi interrupted. Guiyang, we're all just small fry. How can we help with that? Isn't Xiao slapping our face asking us to help? By Yoshi, how can you talk like that? How much did Xiao help you when he was mayor? And you guys come from the same town. If you don't want to help, then leave. We don't need you. Shui Guiyang was mad. Okay, stop arguing. Although some words aren't nice to say, reality is what it is. We can't even so much as touch fights at that level, but we can still do some small things. How about Guiyang, you tell us your plan and we see what we can do. My business isn't big and I might not be able to help much, but I can at least help with some money. Mi Fang saw everyone start arguing and tried to calm them down. Emo sighed. Other than Shui Guiyang, who was truly trying to help Xiao, everyone else had just come for show. Suddenly the door opened, and Xiao came in, having a few slap marks on his face. Everyone leave. I'm being hunted by the mafia. Quick! Xiao only said one sentence before stopping. He had seen Emo. How come you're here? Xiao finally felt assured. He had only called these people to help, because he had no other choice. He wanted to ask them to investigate some things and never expected them to actually help him save Li Chunsheng. Emo walked over and patted Xiao's shoulder and said, Don't worry about anything. Just lowly tell me what happened. I'm sorry, Emo. All I do is make you worry every single time, Xiao said dejectedly. Emo smiled. Don't say that, we're friends. When I'll be in trouble, you'll help me too. Xiao was about to tear up. He had called nearly 20 friends, but only a few had come, yet Emo came every single time he needed help the most. What's going on? As Bai Yoshi heard that the mafia was after Xiao, he immediately got up worriedly. After it really got through to him, he pulled up a girl that was next to him and said, We still have something to do, so we'll be going. As soon as he walked to the door, Bai Yoshi was kicked back in. At the same time, a voice sardonically spoke from the door. Since you already came, don't think about leaving. My big brother said for you to wait here. He will be here very soon. This has nothing to do with me. Bai Yoshi wanted to argue, but no one listened to him. Emo, who is this? Xiao was asking about Luo Ying. Emo smiled and held Luo Ying's hand. This is my wife, Luo Ying. Susu. This is Xiao, my former classmate and my friend. Oh, nice to meet you. Sorry for dragging Emo into my trouble all the time. Xiao realized only then. Anyway, who else other than Emo deserved a woman that pretty? Hello? Luo Ying smiled plainly. Her whole attention was on Emo, and she only replied because Emo introduced Xiao as his friend. Otherwise, she wouldn't want to talk to any of these people. She didn't like talking to strangers. Emo ignored the two at the door and told Wang Chu to close the door. Then he said, Everyone better sit down for now. Xiao, tell us what happened to you. Xiao sighed. Brother Li told me about the case in Jiutang City, so I wanted to help. Originally, there weren't any problems after the second hearing, but because young Master Hung came, it became a big problem. Young Master Hung? Who is that? Emo asked in surprise. Xiao shook his head. We aren't sure about what his full name is, but Brother Chunqing said that he might be from the Dai family. His power is very big. For someone at his level, Brother Chunqing's local power means nothing to him. Emo had heard of this Dai family. Xiao had told him about them last time. Ever since the Song family and Chao family left Beijing, the Dai family and Chou family rose up. But even if this young master was from the Dai family, the Li family should have no reason to fear him. How come they were attacking Li Chunsheng, yet the Li family still didn't do anything? Li Chunsheng should be considered a part of the Li family by now. As Shui Guiyang heard this, he asked, Since even Brother Li doesn't have the status to afford being enemies with this young master, why is the guy intervening with something like the Jiutang case? The last time Brother Chunqing talked to me, he said that young Master Hung had a new lover Yizhu's daughter. Yizhu is Yizhu's second brother. As soon as young Master Hung intervened in the case, news of Brother Chunqing being corrupt started to appear. This isn't the most important issue. The most important thing is that some rumors that Yizhu's death was related to Brother Chunqing also started to appear. saying that the reason why he was intervening in such a case was because he had an affair with Ijuha's wife. Even though all these rumors about Brother Chunxing are fake, he can't do anything about them, Xianxia explained dejectedly. Emo frowned. Even if the guy was trying to suck up to his father-in-law, he should at most be trying to help them win the case. Why would they go so far as to challenge the bottom line of politics? No matter how big Dai Heng's origin was, he wouldn't just wrongly accuse a provincial official for no reason. Emo felt that there was more to this matter than meets the eye. Xianxia continued. Afterwards, it was also said that back in Hefeng, he attacked the Yuan family because the Yuan family didn't divide their dirty money properly with him. How would he know so much about the Yuan family otherwise? Or so the rumors say. After Emo heard all this, he understood that things were far from simple. Xianxia then said, "The day Brother Chunshang was taken away, he sent me a letter telling me to leave immediately. I knew things had gotten bad, so I left Shitong with Xiaotan that night. I knew Brother Chunxing wanted me to find you. What about the Li family? Did Li Qiuyang not say anything?" Emo asked. The Li family was pretty much the most powerful family in China. Although Li Qiuyang wasn't the most powerful of the young generation, he was definitely in the top 3. With Li Qiuyang to help Li Chunxing, how could Li Chunxing be brought down by some Dai family? Not to mention that Li Chunxing was on the just side. Xianxia sighed. I heard that something happened to Li Qiuyang. I don't know what exactly, though. Although I don't know what's going on with the Li family, but they are no longer the #1 family in China. The Dai family and Qiu family joined together to take down the Li family, and they have the support of most people in Beijing. Emo wasn't interested in stuff like that, but Li Chunxing was a good guy, and he had been helping Emo, so he had to intervene. How is he now? How is the case? And why are you being hunted by gangsters? Emo asked. I couldn't contact Brother Chunxing, so I came to Jiutang to collect evidence for his sake. But I couldn't do it myself, so I called some friends for help. Because I needed the help from a lot of people, I was short on money, so I went out to borrow some. Those people lent it to me only yesterday, yet now they want me to pay back with a 10-fold interest. There was no way I could outtake that much, so I ended up being hunted. Lu Lin is probably locked up. Brother Chunxing told me to look after Yi Yen and Yi Xiaodai, but I didn't find them. Xianxia, did you borrow from Blackhead? Lu Yahua suddenly asked. Xianxia nodded. That's right. Lu Yahua's face suddenly changed. Xianxia, you brought trouble to all of us. Blackhead reigns supreme in Jiutang. Those who borrow from that guy all lose a few layers of skin. How could you borrow from him? Shut up, Lu Yahua. You and Bai Yoshi are both the same. Xianxia asked you for help, so if you can't help, then shut up, Shui Guiyang said angrily. Bang. Suddenly the door was kicked open as an African-looking guy with a cigarette in his mouth and a tattooed head walked in, followed by his cronies. Xianxia, you're very bold, making me come personally to collect your debt. The black man suddenly stopped talking when he saw Luoying sitting next to Emo. Fuck me. There's actually such a pretty lady here. Ha ha ha. Then the man walked to Luoying. Everyone looked at Luoying with worry, but Xianxia was very calm. Emo sneered and kicked the man onto his chest. The man was kicked back and spat out blood before crashing into the wall. You! Kill H-! He spat more blood. He felt his body burning, and his organs were shattered. He was so angry that he wanted to kill Emo. But he didn't dare say anything else as there was a gun pointed at his head. Everyone stopped at the sight of the gun. The black man reacted quickly and snarled. As if you dare to shoot Dash before he finished. Emo had already fired. Blood splashed out from the guy's forehead as he had an expression of disbelief. You really dared to shoot. I will kill your entire family. Dash. A ferocious-looking man behind Blackhead moved forward. He was Blackhead's right hand. He pulled out a sword. But before he could finish, Emo fired again. Emo sneered. He could tell that many lives had been lost in their hands. Then, Emo looked at the remaining people and asked, Anyone else wants to talk? Hurry up. I still have a few bullets left. He didn't need a gun to kill these people, but he had used it because he didn't want trouble. He couldn't use fireballs to kill them all, and using a gun was much easier. Moreover, he had license to kill. He just didn't want to cause a slaughter there, so he only killed a few of them to warn them. Of course, the main point was to get the situation even more tense. If they didn't respect him, he wouldn't feel guilty for killing them. Li Chunsheng was helping him, and he had appeared in Jiutang a few days ago. He couldn't believe that they didn't know he was involved. If they had known this and still attacked, their actions were very questionable. Yimo was sure that the higher-ups in China knew that he was closely related to Luoyu, if not responsible. Even with this information, they still hadn't considered him and just intervened in his case. It was no longer a fight for power, it was more serious than that. It could result in an international discord. No matter how powerful the Qiu and Dai family were, they couldn't unsee this. Xiu's friends also looked at Yimo in disbelief. That bunch of phonies tried to get out of there quickly. Yimo sneered. "Did I say you could leave?" They shook and stopped. The scene fell into an eerie silence. Clap, clap. Almost everyone turned to look at where the clapping came from. A man in his 30s was standing at the door. Exciting. Too exciting. It was like a circus. Just 2 shots and no one dares to say anything. "It's been a long time since I've seen someone as bold as you." The man's lips were very thin. 2 bulky men, more than 1.9 m tall, stood before him. They were protecting the man. They each had a pistol, and they also were countless times more skilled at shooting than Yimo. He didn't mind. Yellow level middle stage? Yimo immediately could tell the man's power. The 2 men protecting him were also at yellow level middle stage. So, he was only at yellow level middle stage, but he dared to act up in front of him? Furthermore, that man wasn't really talented. He had reached yellow level middle stage when he was already in his 30s. What caught Yimo's attention wasn't the man's power, but the 2 people next to him and his guards. A man and a woman. The man wasn't tall and was in his 50s, but he was at Earth-level peak stage. Judging by the chi wave, he was on the same level as Xianxia. What caught Yimo's attention was the woman. She was only in her 20s, but she had a very vibrant and attractive face. Yimo was shocked at the fact that when he first saw her, she seemed very innocent and soft, making you want to protect her. But when you looked at her for twice, she seemed naturally seductive. When she stood still, her whole body made your mouth dry. Yimo sneered. She had indeed a natural seductive body. Yimo wasn't sure if it was due to cultivation or natural talent, but she had an eerie beauty. Just from her looks, she was better than Su Jingwen, but in Yimo's eyes, she was not as good as even Su Wei. Although Yimo disregarded her, Xiu and the others looked at her as though they wanted to eat her. Then, the man gave a deadly stare to Luo Ying. His reaction was no better than blackheads. If the woman behind him used her body and seduction skills to showcase her beauty, then the woman in front of him was an indescribable goddess. "I'll take that woman," the man reacted and pointed at Luo Ying. Yimo sneered and held his gun. "Haha, don't bother waving your gun. Even if you shoot all the bullets in it, a gun like that won't harm me at all." The man laughed. The 2 bodyguards didn't even bother pulling out their guns. They just charged at Yimo. In their eyes, he was no stronger than an ant. They had been training every day how to dodge bullets. A pistol like Yimo's was slower than a 54. Although Han Zixin had given Yimo a pistol, it wasn't for him to protect himself. It was more as a symbol of power. Bang, bang, he shot the 2 bodyguards right on the forehead and their bodies fell on the ground. The man looked dumbly at this. He couldn't believe what he has just seen. The man finally reacted, and immediately the cockiness he had was gone. He looked coldly at Yimo and didn't say anything. At the same time, the 50-year-old Earth-level peak martial artist stood in front of him. "You would have to use a 64 to kill young Master Heng's bodyguards. You must not be a simple man." "I'm Kong Laiwu. What's your name?" The 50-year-old man saluted Yimo with his fist. Yimo thought about the situation. So he was Dai Heng, which meant that the woman behind him was Elan. She was pretty indeed. He hadn't even gone looking for him yet that young Master Heng had already come up to him himself. Yimo had the feeling that Kong Laiwu's sentence from before contained some information he was yet to pinpoint. Kong Laiwu continued, "If I'm not wrong, you must be Yimo? The one behind you must be Mayor Shi. If you don't mind, I'll call you young Master Mo. Kong Laiwu looked calm. But only he knew that if the person in front of him was really Mo, then he was probably no match for him. He couldn't have expected to meet Mo there. Mo finally understood why he felt something was weird about Kong Laiwu's first sentence. Usually, ancient martial artists wouldn't lower themselves to studying guns, yet Kong Laiwu, who was at the peak of the Earth level, which meant that he had been studying ancient martial arts since he was small, knew about the Type 64 pistol. That was abnormal. Considering how Kong Laiwu was talking to him without asking for permission from Daiheng first, Mo could see that Kong Laiwu had at least the same status as Daiheng. Mo ignored Kong Laiwu and looked at Daiheng. You're the one causing trouble in the Johua Corporation case and harassing Li Chunqing? Ha ha. Daiheng laughed at first, but he immediately put his smile away and said coldly, So you're Mo. The Cho family is scared of you, the Song family is scared of you, but I, Daiheng, am not scared of you. What do you think you are? I know you have some power in Luo Yu, but so what even if you call Su Yuehua here? You're right, I caused all of that trouble. What will you do about it? Mo was dazed but immediately understood that not many people could know that he owned Luo Yu. He'd been letting Su Yuehua, Yu Miaodan and Zhang Jian manage and speak for Luo Yu. It was normal that Daiheng thought he was just some manager. This also meant that Han Zixin hadn't spilled anything about him. Mo spun his pistol and ordered plainly, Send Lu Lin, Ainen and Yi Shouty over right now. In response, Daiheng looked at Kong Laiwu. Mo understood that this Daiheng guy wanted Kong Laiwu to stop his bullets. But even though Kong Laiwu nodded on the outside, he was sneering in his heart. This Daiheng was asking to die. Although he really wanted to fight Mo, he didn't dare risk it. He had to wait for an ending. Daiheng's life had nothing to do with him. Seeing Kong Laiwu nod, however, Daiheng said lazily, Aren't you smart, having figured out everything? But unfortunately, Li Chunqing is asking to die. Even if he didn't come to Jiutang, his ending will be all the same. As for you, bang bang, blood sprouted from Daiheng's knee, and he knelt down on the ground. He looked at his knee in terror, and in that moment he even forgot about the pain. Immediately after, he looked at Kong Laiwu with an angry face. He didn't believe that Kong Laiwu couldn't even catch 2 bullets. They should be like toys to him, so why hadn't he saved him? But Daiheng saw that Kong Laiwu's face was also pale. He didn't understand how Mo could shoot bullets so fast with a mere 64. His shots had been many times faster than a normal 64's. This wasn't even the most shocking thing. The moment Mo opened fire, Kong Laiwu had felt like he was locked on by a very strong killing intent. He felt as if he would be killed immediately as long as he moved so much as an inch. He originally thought that even if he was no match for Mo, the difference between them should still be rather limited, but now he knew that he was far inferior to Mo. He had originally planned on stopping a bullet if it would be going for Daiheng's vitals, but now he knew that no matter where Mo shot, he wouldn't be able to stop it. He immediately started to sweat. Without an ND, he would be killed all too easily by Mo. Kong Laiwu finally confirmed that the intel he had once gotten should be right. Mo was a half-step Great Heaven Master, someone infinitely close to the Great Heaven stage. He didn't dare say anything and just wanted his pal to come faster because otherwise, their plan wouldn't be realized. Seeing a Kong Laiwu with his mouth shut and a bad-looking face, Daiheng knew he couldn't rely on him. I have 1 more bullet in my gun. If you talk any more shit, this bullet will be for your forehead. Mo looked at the gun and casually remarked, Daiheng, bring Lu Lin and her 2 daughters here immediately. How dare you take away young Master Mo's friends? Immediately have an ND bring them over to young Master Mo. Kong Laiwu suddenly roared at Daiheng. Daiheng shivered and finally felt scared. Although it seemed like Kong Laiwu was his bodyguard, the truth was that Kong Laiwu could ignore him if he wanted. Although he didn't know why it had to be an ND who should bring them here, he could only listen to Kong Laiwu. In the end, Kong Laiwu was actually more in the know than him. He had been planning on sleeping with all 3 women together, yet now, he had already lost his knees. Meanwhile, the woman behind Daiheng was dazed. Everything had happened so fast. The big tree she relied on had already been hacked down. Daiheng immediately picked up the phone and called an ND to bring the 3 women over. He had been very cocky recently. He left China 5 years ago, and when he came back, he was full of confidence. The reason was that he had joined a top-grade organization not long ago. Yemo looked at Dai Hang and knew that he was just a scapegoat, but Kong Laiwu's last words were somewhat questionable. Immediately have an ND bring them over to young Master Mo. Was it important who sent them over? Before the three got there, a large amount of police officers came. They were immediately full of worry, looking at the ground covered in blood and dead people. Kong Laiwu was about to put a stop to it and send the police away, when Yemo took out a document and said, "Take the dead men away and lock up these hoodlums." The police took the document and immediately gave it back respectfully. "Yes, sir." Seeing the police come and go so fast without even asking why Yemo had killed, even Kong Laiwu really wanted to know what Yemo's other identity was. "Wang Chu, you guys can go for now. Xiao, you should stay." Yemo knew they wouldn't be of any help anyway. Wang Chu agreed and left. Xiao's other friends also didn't dare stay and quickly ran. Only Shui Guiyang and Xiao stayed. "Young Master Mo, we really didn't plan on starting trouble with you. The Dai family and Qiu family just wanted to join up against the Li family, but then the Yi family also joined and what happened. However, please forgive us for any disrespect." Kong Laiwu didn't hide anything. Yemo wasn't interested in political warfare and smiled. "Mr. Kong, you must not be of simple origin to be able to reach the peak of the earth level. Other than the Zhang family having Zhang Zhihui, I really don't know which Chinese family has an earth peak level master. Are you really from the Dai family?" Kong Laiwu's eyes narrowed. He didn't expect Yemo would be able to see through his power level. This shook him. If he had fought with Yemo, then it would be understandable, but he had never so much as exchanged moves with Yemo, so how could Yemo tell? Was he already at the great heaven level? Before Kong Laiwu could answer, Yemo spoke in contempt once more. "You can't be from the Dai family, right? To be honest, I don't even think you're Chinese. Your way of doing things seems quite familiar. Makes me think of this organization I heard about called Northern Sand." Kong Laiwu shook, and the tea in front of him fell over. There was an insurmountable feud between Yemo and Northern Sand, so even if Yemo hadn't shot Dai Hang, he would have tried to find an opportunity to get an ND to come. He really didn't know how Yemo was able to tell he was part of Northern Sand. At that moment, Yemo's spirit sense picked up on a white man of small stature walking slowly to the restaurant door. The moment he saw the white man, Yemo knew he was an ND. Because Kong Laiwu had requested for him to come, he studied an ND closely. The guy walked very slowly and had a strange chi wave. It wasn't his first time in contact with this type of person. Yemo immediately knew that man was a mutant. Although he didn't know what level, he wouldn't be any weaker than Peter, who he had met at Luozong. Yemo sneered. If they wanted to do anything to him just with that guy, then they underestimated him too much. Yemo's spirit sense scanned the man's sleeve and found that there was a gun in it, smaller than an average pistol. Its design was very strange. Were they planning to use that strange weapon against him? Yemo studied the gun, but he honestly believed that firearms really didn't pose a threat to him. Even if they had nuclear weapons, it had to be able to hit him first. The most threatening weapon Yemo had ever encountered was the explosive laser bomb, but that thing cost 100 million to be made. And even though he wasn't an idiot who would stand there and just let them blow him up, so what could a pistol like that do to him? Still, Yemo was much more careful now. Despite not considering the pistol a threat, he still scanned it with his spirit sense. As soon as he did, he got up immediately. "What's wrong?" Seeing Yemo get up, Luoying also got up. "Nothing. I'm thinking about something. Sit down." Yemo smiled to Luoying and said. Luoying knew that Yemo had found out something, but she didn't ask. He had noticed that the pistol didn't have bullets, which was no normal gun's mechanism. But what really shocked him the most was that there was a small piece of crystal in the gun. This crystal was placed in a sort of circuit that he didn't understand. Furthermore, that small crystal was a piece of the extreme energy crystal. Even though Yemo didn't know how powerful that pistol was, he knew it had certainly been designed by Yixing. Could definitely threaten his life. "Young Master Mo, don't worry. Lu Lin and the others haven't been mistreated at all." When Dai Hang saw that Yemo's expression wasn't good, He feared for his life. Emo wasn't in the mood to talk with Daiheng. His spirit sense was focused on the short white man. He rejoiced that he had spirit sense. If that gun was really powerful and he hadn't had spirit sense, he would have been at risk of dying that day, even if he had reached great heaven. The white man walked to the counter and asked for something, but he didn't come up immediately. Emo also noticed that Lu Lin and the rest hadn't even arrived yet. At that moment, 4 people entered through door. The leading man was a tall white man and 3 women followed behind him. It was Lu Lin and the others, but they looked fatigued and despaired. Emo was dazed. Had he made a mistake? Was the man who just entered an Endi? Was the short man who was in front of him just a passerby? Emo shook his head and immediately refuted that idea. A passerby wouldn't carry an extreme energy stone pistol just like that. They are working together, Emo thought. The tall white man led the 3 women into the elevator. Emo's spirit sense scanned him. He found out that he was mutant too and not a weak one. He also had a pistol, but it was an ordinary one. Just when Emo was getting quite confused, the short white man also walked into the elevator with a waitress. Emo breathed at ease. His guess was right. The 2 men didn't talk to each other, but they were on the same team. The 6 people all exited the elevator on the 6th floor. The short white man looked like he didn't mind the people in front of him at all. He talked with the waitress as he squished her ass. The 2 groups were approximately 6 meters apart. Soon, they reached room 616 and the tall white man knocked on the door. Kong Laiwu was getting up to open, but Emo stopped him. He walked to the door and sighed. 6 meters were just enough for the short white man to reach the door when he opened it. It seemed they had already thought of a thorough plan to deal with him. Emo didn't understand why they were putting their hopes on that pistol. It seemed that as long as they opened fire, he wouldn't be able to get away. Emo walked to the door, but kept his spirit sense on the short man. Although he seemed to be flirting with the waitress, he was also highly concentrated. The moment he opened the door, he flung a wind blade to the short man. Almost at the same time, the tall white man pulled out his gun and Kong Laiwu also attacked from behind. Everything happened so fast. Just when Emo had thrown a wind blade, while the white man hadn't pulled out his gun yet and Kong Laiwu's fist was still half a meter from Emo's back, a blue beam of light flashed. It pierced the tall white man's back, going through his stomach diagonally and piercing the ground a few millimeters away from Emo's toe. Emo noticed that the blue ray had gone through 6 floors and into the ground in an extreme high speed. So fast. But Emo didn't have time to think. He knew Kong Laiwu's fist was about to hit him. He ignored Kong Laiwu. To him, the short white man had the biggest threat. He dashed to the short white man and grabbed his arm, which hadn't fell on the floor yet. At this moment, Kong Laiwu's fist hit the tall white man. His target had been Emo, but he had instantly disappeared. That tall white man was already dead because of being shot by the blue light, but now he was struck by Kong Laiwu's fist too. Emo grabbed the pistol from the hand and finally felt assured. He couldn't help to applaud the man's speed. He had attacked first, but the man had still managed to pull the trigger. It was because he had sliced off his arm that the pistol aimed down. If not, it would have gone through his leg or chest. His wind blade wasn't as fast as the blue light. That's why the man still could lift up a bit and fire. It had been a close call. Emo was sweating. If Kong Laiwu had opened the door first, his wind blade would have been even slower. Perhaps Kong Laiwu hadn't realized that he was being used as a mean to hit Emo. If he had died or gotten injured, it was fine, but Luo Ying was with him. He didn't want to imagine what would have happened to her. Northern Sand. This crazy organization. They actually sent such crazy killers and weapons to kill him. This pistol could pierce through everything. No matter what you had to block it, you would definitely die. Emo was sure that he could easily kill 10 of these mutants, but what if they all had such weapons? If they attacked at the same time, it would be very hard to tell who would win in the end. Emo was sure that the blue light would end up hitting him first. The blue light was beyond Emo's reaction speed. Was this how the Northern Sand wanted to take him out? But Emo believed that even if they had such a powerful weapon, it might be the case that only this white man was able to react with such speed. You knew that true attacker was me? Your reaction speed is no lesser than mine. You're strong, very strong. The white man spoke and fell to the ground. He had killed himself. Why was this guy so similar to the Black Sun Empire members, who still killed themselves with poison when they were caught? But why weren't Kong Laiwu and Dai Hung committing suicide? Emo turned back and looked at Kong Laiwu, who had a pale face, and said coldly, "Nice calculations, Mr. Kong. Your northern sand is quite good. One thing though, you were planning on having this tall white guy mask the blue light, but perhaps you were chosen to filter it too. To be honest, I really didn't expect you guys to be able to make such a weapon." Kong Laiwu's face was bad. He knew he was done for. Emo ignored him and looked at Lu Lin and company. "Now that you're here, you don't have to worry anymore." Then Emo looked at the tall white man in shock. The place where the blue light had pierced him started to expand. "Brother Yi, thank you for saving us again." Yen Yen was the first to react. "Thank you, truly. Emo, I don't even want the heritage anymore, just as long as the three of us can be safe." Lu Lin thought they were done for when they were brought there, but then they saw Emo. The roller coaster of emotions they had been through and the scene of dead bodies made them feel happy to be alive. The battle had gone by so fast that by the time Shixiu and Shui Guiyang reacted, it was already over. Emo walked to Kong Laiwu and patted his shoulder with his chi, saying, "I sealed your meridians, so do your best for me. I will wait for you in Jiutang. If you accomplish anything, come find me tomorrow. If not, there's no need to come." Emo then walked to Dai Hung and said, "Go back and make me happy. If I'm not satisfied, you can imagine the consequences." Then Emo scanned Elon. All she felt when Emo looked at her was frigidity. The reason why he didn't kill Dai Hung was because there were a lot of things he needed the guy to do. He could kill Dai Hung at any time anyway. Gaining an obedient dog was much better than killing him. After seeing Emo actually leave, Kong Laiwu honestly couldn't fathom why Emo was letting them go. But soon after, Kong Laiwu felt the inner chi in his body slowly gather towards his dantian. He couldn't use it, and at the current rate at which it was gathering, he had 2 days' time before his dantian would explode. At this moment, he finally understood why Emo had let him go. "Brother Yi, your girlfriend is really pretty." Yi Xiaodi was the first to adjust her state back to normal. "Thank you, you are also very pretty." Emo smiled to her and then said to Lu Lin, "After Dai Hung brings the money here, you guys can move to Luoyu if you don't like it here." We can go to Luoyu? I heard the requirements for getting in are very strict. Also, why would Dai Hung bring any money over?" Yen Yen said. Emo replied, "If he's a smart person, he will. Don't worry. As for Luoyu, I'll give you guys a number you should call." "Emo, will Brother Chunxing be fine? Won't this cause problems with the Dai and Qiu family?" Shixiu asked worriedly. Emo said, "I don't want to meddle in those fights, but Li Chunxing is my friend, so I will help him. Don't worry. I believe Kong Laiwu knows what to do as well." Emo didn't want to kill Kong Laiwu. He might have already left a mark on a high-level member of Northern Sand. He wouldn't mind having an extra one. Northern Sand made him feel threatened. It seemed like Northern Sand was treating him as their #1 enemy too. One day he would have to face off with Northern Sand. He didn't have to make Kong Laiwu join his side to control him, that wasn't realistic anyway. But he could still control him in other ways. Kong Laiwu appeared earlier than Emo had expected. He came to Yemo's place early on the second day. Northern Sand didn't start the fight between the Li family and the Dai and Qiu families. "We were just making use of the event. We can promise that what we wish to do has no conflict of interest with you." Dai Hung did Li Chunxing in because he happened to get the support of his family for it. Kong Laiwu opened up completely. Emo knew that Kong Laiwu was trying to get him to trust him. Then, Kong Laiwu took out a check and said, "This is the money for the Jiuhe Corporation. I've brought it over." Emo looked at Lu Lin and asked, "This check is 900 million, but I don't know the market value of Jiuhe Corporation. Is it enough?" "It's enough. In fact, it's not worth that much." Lu Lin knew that the corporation was worth 500 million at most. Emo waved his hand and said, "The extra is compensation. Just take it." With Yi Mo's confirmation, Lu Lin agreed. Seeing Yi Mo take the check, Kong Laiwu breathed a sigh of relief and then said, Secretary Li's case has been proven to have been someone wrongly accusing him. He has returned to his position. As compensation, the Dai and Cho family are willing to vacate a provincial vice mayor position in Hefeng. So I'm just conveying the message. Yi Mo thought, it's good that Li Chunxing got promoted again. He nodded and agreed. Then he said to Xiao, Li Chunxing got promoted again. Go ahead and go to Yifeng to celebrate with him. Of course. Xiao immediately nodded. That will do, Yi Mo said as he patted Kong Laiwu's shoulder. He not only removed the restrictions but also secretly left behind a hidden wave of qi. Kong Laiwu was relieved that Yi Mo didn't kill him and let him go instead. He immediately turned to leave, not daring to mention anything about their most precious super light beam gun. Lu Lin, you three go with Xiao to Hefeng and let Li Chunxing help you get to Luoyu. I still have to take care of some other stuff with Luoying. It'll be a while before I go back. Yi Mo saw that he was done here and didn't want to stay. If it hadn't been for the trouble in Jiutang, he would have already taken Luoying to the Duanheng ranges to find that nun. To him, the most important thing right now was the golden page and where she had gotten her spirit stone from. Since the nun had also guessed that he had the other 2 pages, she probably didn't want to go back to the small world. To her, the most important thing was also having the golden page. He was very badly injured and Luoying wasn't strong. Jiesun didn't know he had a lotus life pill, so she must have thought that she would get them for sure. When she recovered, she would go to the village to find him and Luoying. Lu Lin knew that they had to get to Luoyu as soon as they could. Although Yi Mo was strong, he couldn't stay with them forever. She said gratefully, Thank you. If it wasn't for you, we would be in peril. Yi Mo smiled. It's fine. You should leave soon. It's not safe for you to stay in Jiutang. Hearing this, Lu Lin hesitated before saying, Joha got a colorful stone back when he was young. He used to say that stone was very precious, but he didn't know why. He didn't dare let people look at it, fearing it would get unwanted attention. It's in the house. I wanted to give it to you last time you came, but you left so fast that we didn't get a chance. Now it's too late. When we were captured, they took the stone too. Yi Mo waved his hand. It was just a stone. I heard Juha talk about it too. He said he would give it to me when he got free. Since it's not here, never mind. Yi Mo thought it was at most a precious gemstone, which wasn't much use to him. Mom, are you talking about the colorful stone that's warm when you hold it in your hand, but sometimes it's also cool? Yen Yen asked. What? The stone changes its temperature. Yi Mo intervened before Lu Lin could answer. She looked strangely at Yi Mo and said, Yes, it's a very eerie stone. What color is it? Does it change color, Tio? Yi Mo was getting more excited. Lu Lin nodded. Yes, the stone's color does change indeed. Sometimes it's just red and white and then sometimes red, white and blue. Moreover, in rare occasions it could get to 5 colors. Have you seen this sort of stone before? Although Yi Mo was very excited, he kept himself calm. He knew it was a 5-element rock. It was a very rare material for artifact forging, even rarer than star jade. It was something used to make spirit artifacts, which were countless times more powerful than magic artifacts. Yi Mo knew that even if he had the rock, he wouldn't be able to make spirit artifacts. If he added a bit of a 5-element rock to ordinary materials, he could make a flying sword. He had been looking for materials to make a flying sword for long, but he had seemed to have ran out of luck. Now that he had found the 5-element rock, he wasn't going to let it go. How big is that stone? Where did you lose it? Yi Mo asked. As though she could feel Yi Mo's excitement and desperation, Yi Xiaodai suddenly asked, Brother Yi, is that stone very important? More precious than a diamond. Perhaps in her eyes, the most expensive thing in the world was diamond. Yi Mo nodded. An egg-sized 5-element rock was worth a few million spirit stones. Yi Mo had never seen that many, not even in his past life. He really didn't understand how the Earth could have such thing. The only explanation was that it came from asteroids and meteorites. Lu Lin immediately said, The stone had the size of 2 fists. After our final trial for the case, I knew things weren't going to be that simple. We started packing our things. But before we could leave, we were taken away by the Wu Jin Association. Wu Jin Association? Emo questioned. There were too many of these small gangs. Wu Jin Association is a rather well-known gang in Hedong province. It wasn't too important before, but due to some reason, the mainland gangs started to decline. So these small gangs rose in power. Shuiguang had been working at the police station and knew these things better than everyone else. Lu Lin nodded. After they took us away, all our belongings remain in their hands. We still haven't gotten them back yet. After understanding the situation, Yemo got up and said to Shixiu and Shuiguang, "You guys can go back to Yifeng first. I'll return once I'm done here. Brother Yi, should we wait for you and Sister Luo at Yifeng?" Xiaodai asked. Yemo smiled. "No need. Try to find a way to get to Luo Yu once you're in Yifeng. I'm busy. I'll go visit you guys to Luo Yu." Yemo wanted to send Luo Ying to Luo Yu before he went looking for the 5-element stone. After being aware of the threat that Pistol supposed, he was sure that Northern Sand could make at least 8 more with the stones they had. Without counting the one he had already dealt with, they had about 7 of them. If something happened to Luo Ying, even if he reached Ascension stage, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. Without Luo Ying, he doubted if he would have the will to continue cultivation. After marrying Luo Ying, she was a part of his life. If they managed to make not only a pistol but also a sniper that was outside his spirit sense range, he wouldn't be able to dodge it. Emo was sure that Northern Sand wasn't going to let him go after suffering such heavy loss. They just didn't have the confidence to take him out anymore. Luo Ying seemed to know what Emo was thinking and touched his face. "I'll wait for you. Didn't you say your sister was at Ninghai? Send me there. Be careful." Emo took out that extreme energy stone pistol and gave it to Luo Ying. "Susu, take this pistol. If you're ever in danger, don't give them any chance. Just fire. No one will know I'm staying in Ninghai. I won't be in danger, so I'd rather you keep this pistol." Luo Ying immediately rejected. He hugged her and said, "This pistol can only be used a few times, and I won't use it. You can use it to protect yourself and Bei Wei. I'll come to meet you guys as soon as I get the stone." When he realized that he was going to take Luo Ying to Luo Yu, Emo hesitated. He didn't know if it was the right moment to tell her about Xianxia. Luo Ying could see Emo's hesitance, but she didn't ask. He would tell her what needs to be told. Compared to the chaos Beijing was in, the second largest city of China, Jin City was rather calm. Yet the wealthiest family in the city, the Shin family, wasn't calm at all. Their ancestor was supposedly one Shin Wansan, a very famous businessman who, despite being brought down many times, used his great business genius to firmly establish the Shin family. Although they weren't famous to the level of being on the Forbes list, those in the business all knew that the truly wealthy people didn't appear in Forbes anyway. The Shin family was one such family. The reason why the Shin family wasn't calm that particular day was because the leader of the Shin family, Shun Taigong, had died due to illness. According to the rules of the family, the next family leader would be the eldest son of the first wife. There should be no exceptions. Unless the eldest son died, this rule wouldn't change. The eldest son hadn't died yet, so there shouldn't be any discord normally. But the problem was that even though that generation's eldest son hadn't died, he wasn't too different from being dead. Shin Chuin had been in bed for half a year as a vegetable. The Shin family was a big family, and so there was discord in the Shin family mansion over the position of family leader. Shin Yin was also from the Shin family. Shin Yin had come back from Hong Kong a while before already, but her auntie Qingkue hadn't come back with her after she got well. She had left Hong Kong alone, and even Shin Yin didn't know where she went, so she was a bit sad. The first thing she did when she got back to Jin City was to report to the family that her auntie had been cured, more precisely by a young man on the plane with runic paper. She told them to find this young man so that he could treat her big uncle. Some people did believe that Qingkue was cured at first, but when Shin Yin said that it was thanks to a young man using charms, no one bothered to talk to her anymore. If her condition had been cured, why didn't she come back to Jin City? They all thought that the reason why Shin Yin said that had to be because she wanted the family to send more money to treat Qingkue. Couldn't the girl come up with a better lie? Xianxia finally went to find her father, but her father's words made her even more sad. He just told her to try not to get too close to Qingque and reproached her for her spreading news that runic paper had cured Qingque. Helplessly, Xianxia could only find her cousin Shen Feilin to unfreeze the card. But now that Shen Feilin knew that the card was taken by a fraud, he didn't help her. Although it was only a few million, he still didn't want to give it to a fraud. Xianxia was so desperate that she almost fought Shen Feilin, but the card still wasn't unfrozen in the end. The Shen family members didn't believe her, and no one cared about Auntie Qingque. Xianxia felt extremely disappointed, and she finally understood why Auntie Qingque left the family and didn't want to come back. Meanwhile, Yimo sent Luo Ying to Ninghai, and Su Jingguan went to Beijing. Apparently, it was her grandfather's birthday. When Tang Beiwei saw Luo Ying, she couldn't help but approve of her brother's eyes. Both of his wives were so pretty. However, she also couldn't help but worry about when the two would meet. How would her brother deal with it? At the same time, she felt bad for Su Jingguan. She was such an excellent girl. Yet her brother wasn't interested in her. And the same was true for Sister Yunbing, who often came to visit her. After Yimo sent Luo Ying to Ninghai, he made some arrangements and then went back to Jutong. Although the golden page was important, it's not like he needed it right at that moment. He did need the 5-element rock immediately, though. Wu Jin Association was the biggest gang in Jiutang, but their operations weren't limited to Jiutang. They had branches in almost all of Hedong Province's cities. Blackhead was a part of that network, and his company was just a sub-company of Wu Jin Association. Blackhead had just wanted to use Shirxiu to earn some money. However, when the Wu Jin Association found out that Shirxiu had gone to help Li Chunsheng, they told him they wanted to kill Shirxiu. Yet instead, Blackhead was killed. Someone had dared kill Blackhead on their turf? This was outrageous. Wu Jin Association immediately used the most of their gangster-based information network and found out that the person who killed Blackhead came from Beijing and was someone with a license to kill. This made the boss of Wu Jin Association hesitant about getting revenge. If he really went and did something to this person, the government would end up chasing him down. No matter how strong they were just a gang in the end. Although they had a lot of powerful people in the gang, if something like that happened, they might not be able to help him. But if he didn't get revenge, they would lose their name and it would be impossible to keep their strong solidarity. So, Xianxia gathered all the higher-ups of the gang to have a meeting and discuss how they should get revenge. Brother Xiong, if young Master Hung wasn't injured, we wouldn't have been able to do anything. But since he's injured, I feel like we can do something. Who does that guy think he is, daring to injure young Master Hung? Someone commented. Xianxia frowned and waved his hand. We will wait a while and see how young Master Hung deals with it. That man is someone with a license to kill after all, we need to be careful. Someone bring that small cop over. Xianxia already knew that Dai Heng's caretaker had gone to meet the man but left quickly, and then Lu Lin and company all left Jiutang. Yet the man who killed Blackhead along with that beautiful woman was still in the hotel. It seems like that young kid has quite the background. Dai Heng's caretaker went today, yet he didn't take anyone away, which means they reached an agreement. Xianxia thought for a bit and then said, "Listen to my order. No one is to touch that person." Who was Dai Heng? That cocky to the extreme guy had easily killed a middle-level official. That's how powerful he was, and yet someone like him had his legs broken and still had to suck it up. Soon the cop was brought over. He was covered in blood, and there was even blood on his head. "Officer Liu, I'll give you one more chance. Tell me how that guy who killed Blackhead is called? What is his background? You might not be afraid of death, but what about your wife? Are you not worried about your wife? I can promise you here and now that if you tell me what that guy is called and what his background is, I won't touch your wife," Xianxia said. Lu Zhuan knew that he was done for and that even if he answered Xianxia, he would still be going to die. Just when Lu Zhuan was about to speak, a voice suddenly appeared in the room. "My name is Yimo, and if you're that desperate to get to know me, I'm here. Luckily, it's not too late and everyone is here. Who are you? How did you get in?" Xianxia got up immediately and looked at Yimo in shock. I walked in, as he said that Yemo kicked two hoodlums who had tried to subjugate him away. Xianxia didn't bother with the two hoodlums, but his face changed drastically, and he asked in a shaky voice, "Wait, your name is Yemo? Beijing Yi family's Yemo? Yem, young master Mo? We didn't mean to offend you. Why did you come all the way here?" Xianxia got up and said with a pale face. Everyone in the room looked at their big boss in shock. They didn't understand. Even if their boss saw the mayor, he wouldn't be like this. Who was that Yemo? Why had their fearless boss gotten so scared? Other people didn't know Yemo, but he had heard of him. They said that the Song family had faded away because of a certain Yemo, but what made Xianxia fear him the most was that a cruel person had appeared at the Ghost City's hidden sex tournament, and his name was Yemo. Although he didn't have the right to go to the tournament, they said that Yemo was a killing machine. He even dared to fight the legendary hidden sections. Anyone who belonged to the hidden sects could kill whoever stood on their way easily. Yet Yemo could effortlessly beat the hidden sects. Xianxia was an insect next to him. No wonder he dared to kill openly without concerns. Moreover, no wonder he had dared to break Dai Heng's leg, and he hadn't done anything about it. After thinking it through, Xianxia's legs were shaking. Many years had passed since he had been that scared. Not even when he had faced his big boss for the first time as a small clone, he had been that scared. Seeing Yemo approach him, Xianxia no longer dared to stand in front of the seats and walked down quickly saying, "Young Master Mo, please have a seat." Yemo sat on the head seat and scanned Xianxia. "I heard you're looking for me, right?" Xianxia's teeth clattered as he said, No, how dare I look for you? Young Master Mo. This is a mistake, just a mistake. Xiao is my friend, and I'm familiar with Lu Lin's family. Yet, your association has been trying to do harm to them recently. Although he could deal with the problem by throwing some wind blades, Yemo didn't want to do that. No, that's a misunderstanding. I regret listening to young Master Hung. Although he knew he had offended Yemo because of this, he still had a sliver of hope of putting the blame on Dai Hung. Yemo knew that Dai Hung had ordered him to do it, but Xianxia was no good person either. He looked at the policeman and said, "Go back and get things ready. Call Li Chunsheng. Let him put you in charge of this case and get rid of Wu Jin Association's power in the province. Take this pill and go do this." Lu Juan was dazed for a while after hearing this. He was getting a promotion. With Li Chunsheng by his side, what couldn't he do? He quickly took the pill and walked outside. Telling the police to investigate Wu Jin Association right at their base was more than a slap in the face. FCK. Who are you? You dare dash Wu Jin Association was a big gang, and there were quite a lot of people who weren't afraid of death. But the man who just spoke couldn't finish speaking. He was shot dead in the forehead by Yemo. This is the last bullet. Yemo looked at the gun and shook his head. This thing didn't need chi, it was quite convenient. Xianxia's expression kept changing. He knew that Yemo was very strong, but it was too insulting. He had almost knelt down, yet Yemo still told the police in his face to have the province committee annihilate their power. Should he keep enduring this? He had to. He knew how powerful someone who could beat the hidden sects was. Fuck, brothers. Let's go and kill this bitch. Seeing that Yemo was going to kill them all, Xianxia was scared. But there were some people who weren't. The vice leader had been unhappy with his ruling for a long time. It was his chance to bring Xianxia down. With his call, more than half of the 20 or so members pulled out their swords. Xianxia saw his men go up, but he didn't move nor stop them. He had the slight hope that he had heard wrong about Yemo. Yemo smiled and threw some wind blades. He really wasn't interested in fighting these people. In the blink of an eye, these men were all killed. Although there weren't any dismembered bodies, Yemo's wind blades had aimed accurately into their hearts, causing a bloodbath. The air had the smell of blood. From the uproar to the massacre, there had been only a few seconds, and then everything turned calm. The remaining people's faces were pale. They usually saw a lot of blood, some had even killed before, but they'd never seen someone like Yemo, just killing tens of people a handwave. Xianxia got more frightened. He didn't think someone who cultivated ancient martial arts could reach such a superhuman level. What shook him the most was how calm Emo was when slaughtering the men. Then, scene fell into silence. Emo didn't talk either. He saw a fat man running inside with desperation. The man pushed open the door, and before he noticed the situation, he said, "Brother Xiong, the higher-ups are sending people to investigate the Wu Jin Association." He finally realized that things weren't right. The floor was covered with dead bodies, and other than the man sitting at the top, everyone had a pale face and shaky legs. "What's going on?" The fat man stopped walking. He wanted to retreat. "Who are you?" "You came to notify the Wu Jin Association." Emo glanced at the fat man. The fat man glanced at Xianxia, who was staring at the ground. He immediately knew things weren't going well. He saw the gun in Yemo's hand and didn't dare retreat. He said loudly, "I'm the police chief of Jiutang. What's going on here?" Yemo shook his head. If the fat man hadn't come, he really wouldn't have bothered going. But since he came, he didn't need to go at all. He would save some trouble for Li Chunxing. And without thinking, he threw a wind blade over. He knew that killing a police chief would bring some trouble to Li Chunxing. But the Dai and Shou family were already concerned about Yemo. If Li Chunxing still couldn't deal with it, there was no use in him staying in the political scene. He stared at Xianxia and asked, "You captured Lu Lin's family, right?" Seeing that Yemo dared to even kill a police chief, Xianxia's heart went ice cold. He said shakily, "Yes, but we didn't treat them with disrespect." Yemo continued asking, "She had some things in her house. Did you take them too? Where are they?" I don't know about this. Baoxing is the one responsible for these matters." Xianxia looked at his number one man. Baoxing was usually the one abusing people, but he finally got a taste of his own medicine. The only difference was that although he was scared, his eyes kept turning. There was a colorful stone. "Where is it? Speak!" When Yemo claimed the last word, he slammed the table. "Yes, I'll speak. I threw away most things, but I did sell such a stone." Baoxing saw Yemo's face turn very ugly and immediately understood that Yemo was looking for that stone. He didn't dare hide anything. That stone was colorful and sometimes changed colors. "I took it to Gem Banner, and the boss there, Boss Luo, bought it for 8 million. "What?" Xianxia didn't believe his ears. Even the association itself couldn't easily earn 8 million, yet his most loyal man had actually secretly sold that stone for that much. Xianxia's face was getting worse, but he soon remembered the situation he was in. His life might be as good as over. Why would he care about his men's loyalty? Yemo got up and said coldly to Baoxing, "Take me to that Gem Banner right now." Then he showed Xianxia a cold look. Xianxia's heart quenched. He was sure he was done for. The slaughter god in front of him gave him a look right before leaving. This meant he was going to die for sure. Thinking like that, Xianxia took out a dagger and quickly cut 2 of his own fingers off. He originally wanted to cut off his whole wrist, but in the end couldn't do it. Yemo spoke calmly. "When that cop brings people to disassemble Wu Jin Association, you know what to do. If you don't want to cooperate, you can try and run, but I don't think you can run faster than Chen Long too. Young Master Mo, I wouldn't dare to. I will wait for Officer Lu to come, and I will cooperate with him to pull out Wu Jin Association from its roots." Xianxia's face was pale because of the pain, but he didn't dare say no to Yemo. He knew that Yemo wasn't killing him only because he wanted him to help completely take out Wu Jin Association. Concerning Chen Long too, he had indeed heard that he had also died in Yemo's hands. Compared to Chen Long too, Xianxia was worth less than his nail. As for Baoxing, he was very devious and had killed many people. Before joining Wu Jin Association, he once raped and killed 2 university girls. Yet even though he had no significant background or money, he was still fine. From this, one could see the level of his cunning. Compared to Xianxia, Baoxing was far better at scheming. In fact, ever since Baoxing joined Wu Jin Association, he had constantly been thinking about replacing Xianxia. So after bringing Yemo to Gem Banner, he was thinking of how to escape. Should he cut his fingers like Xianxia or something? As Baoxing brought Yemo to the door, Yemo stopped and looked at the confused Baoxing. "You've killed quite a lot, right?" Baoxing didn't expect Emo to ask him such an irrelevant question. No dash, his first reaction was to deny. You can stay here and guard the door, Emo said. But then he soon threw a backhanded wind blade before leaving. Baoxing clutched his throat and was in disbelief. Why did Emo kill him at that time? Didn't he just want him to show him the way? Baoxing was unsatisfied, but he suddenly came to understand something as he fell over. Emo had wanted to give him hope and then kill him immediately after. Emo had wanted to torture him. A gust of hatred rose in his soul, and he cursed, Even in death I will make sure you don't live well. Emo knew that since this gem banner place had spent a few million to buy the stone, they knew the stone's worth. He might not be able to buy it back with money, but if he couldn't, he would just have to steal it. But he couldn't let Gem Banner know who he was. If they knew something about him that would make them suspect him and they had his photo, that would be embarrassing. Before he entered Gem Banner, Emo disguised himself as an ugly, bearded man. He even fabricated a knife scar on his face. He chose such a look to appear more threatening. Gem Banner was China's biggest organization for trading jade and antiques, and they had shops all over the world, so Emo found it really quickly. Is Boss Luo here? Emo asked while scanning the shop with his spirit sense. He had a bad feeling right after, because there was no colorful rock to be found. Wait a moment, I will call him for you. As one girl saw Emo's ferocious look, she immediately called Boss Luo. Not long after, an old man came in and asked, "Which friend is looking for me?" The man was in his 60s. "I am, because I have some private things to ask Boss Luo about," Emo replied simply. "No problem, I'm Luo Yu. I'll tell you whatever I know." Luo Yu could also tell that Emo was no good guy and tried to avoid offending him. So Emo straight up asked, "Boss Luo, a few days ago Wu Jing Association's Baoxing apparently sold a colorful rock in this shop. Is that the case?" Hearing this, Luo Yu's heart skipped. He had bought the stone from Baoxing rather cheaply, yet now after quite a few days someone came looking for it. Seeing Luo Yu not speak, Emo sneered, "Baoxing stole something of mine, and I've dealt with him already, so don't try to play tricks with me, Boss Luo. Or else, don't blame me for getting rough." Hearing this, Luo Yu's back went cold. He knew who Baoxing was all too clear, yet such a person had been dealt with by this bearded man? Although Gem Banner didn't have to be afraid of someone like him, they did proper business, so it really wouldn't be good to have this become an incident. The people nearby heard that Wu Jin Association was involved and quickly left. This Luo Yu thought for a bit and started speaking. "Gem Banner is an upright business, but friend, you're right. A few days ago I did indeed buy a colorful rock. However, we only care about the quality of the product, we don't care about its origin." Emo sneered, "Oh, if you don't care about the origin of things, that means your place is a good place for selling off dirty goods. Friend, you can't say that." Baoxing said that the rock had a clean origin, and of course we can't investigate that. Gem Banner is just a simple shop, we can't investigate every customer. If we did, there would be no need for us to think about doing business. Luo Yu was worried. If it wasn't for Emo looking so ferocious, he wouldn't even have said that much. Emo didn't want to waste time talking to this Luo Yu. He just had to know where it was. From Luo Yu's tone, it would seem the shop knew the value of the stone. So Emo just had to find where it had been sent to and buy it as soon as possible. And if that wasn't possible, he would steal it. Thinking like this, Emo just said, "I don't want to have to say anything else. Just tell me where the stone is now." Hearing this, Luo Yu breathed a sigh of relief. It's been shipped to the Gem Banner in Jin City, and in a few days, it will appear in an auction as the final prod dash. Before Luo Yu could finish, Emo had already disappeared. He needed to get to Jin City right away. If the 5-element rock was sold, how would he find it? He had to get it before it was sold. After leaving Jiutang, Emo went to Jin City as soon as he could. The Gem Banner in Jin City was located in an antique store street. When Emo got there, he almost thought he had come back to Luo Yu Continent's cultivation cities. The structures there were more and more ancient, and there were quite a lot of roadside stalls. He looked at this familiar yet unknown street and lost his mind for a moment. Emo found Gem Banner quickly. He had heard Boss Luo say that the boss surname was Pan Sheng. He was a middle-aged man in his 40s, slightly fat. This shop was much bigger than the one in Jiutang. They had everything. Emo scanned with his spirit sense carefully, but he was immediately disappointed. The 5-element rock wasn't in there either. Is Boss Pan here? I have to talk with him about business. Emo went inside and asked. A bearded man with a ferocious-looking knife scar had come in yelling, and this immediately made everyone move away. Hello, sir. Our boss is out for a business meeting. He will be back tomorrow afternoon. A young man in his 20s answered. He knew that kind of people could be looking for trouble, so it was best not to leave any excuse for them to start a fight. But Emo wasn't looking for trouble. Even knowing that Pan Shang wasn't there, he had still asked. He was disappointed. He just had to know where the 5-element rock was. With his means, he could take it away easily. Seeing the ferocious man leave the establishment, the waiter breathed at ease. Although they had their own security guard, he didn't want the customer he was taking care of to get into a fight with the security. In his boredom, Emo called Luo Ying and Ning Qingxue to tell them he was at Jin City. He would return in a while, so he then started to stroll around on the antique street. He was trying to decide whether he should find a place to stay for the night. He scanned his spirit sense and saw a large crowd huddling around a small square. It was a stone betting square. They were betting stone. Emo wasn't interested in that. After all, no matter how good the jade was, it wasn't anything to him. The money he would earn wouldn't be worth it. The only use Emo could give to jade was to set formations, but the effects weren't that good either. Just when he was about to leave, he saw a familiar figure in a corner. Soon, Emo recognized that person. It was Su Wei. Why was she there? She looked very stressed and seemed to be crying. Had she lost a stone in a bet? Su Wei was a good person and he owed her a favor. She had been looking after his silver heartgrass for a long time and she had stayed with Ning Qingxue for a long time. He was very grateful to her, so Emo went to say hi. Hey, beautiful lady, why are you crying here by yourself? He wanted Su Wei to lighten up. Huh? Who are you? Su Wei looked at Emo and quickly took a few steps back. Emo subconsciously touched his face and smiled bitterly. Everyone stared at Emo and then at Su Wei, and they assumed he had bad intentions. But people would rather avoid trouble, so they quickly left. Emo smiled bitterly, walked up to Su Wei and whispered, Su Wei, I'm Emo. I'm wearing a mask right now. The beard is fake. There were people hunting me, so I'm hiding. You are Emo? Su Wei looked at Emo in disbelief. He could only say, we lived together in that small house in Ninghai? Did you forget? Huh. You really are Emo? Su Wei finally believed him. She could recognize his voice. Emo nodded. Why did you leave Ninghai? I didn't expect to see you here. Did something happen to you? Su Wei suddenly started to cry again. She just wanted to go into Emo's arms and weep. He looked awkwardly at everyone who looked at him in contempt. He could only say in a small voice, don't cry, otherwise people will think I'm doing something to you. What is it? Tell me. Su Wei finally stopped crying and told him the reason. Her mother and brother were living in Jin City. Her mother had been staying at the hospital for more than a year, so she had no option but to give up her job at Ninghai and come take care of her mother. Her mother needed large amounts of money, and her brother needed money to study too. The family didn't have enough, so her father and she had to work really hard in Jin City. However, her father's taxi was involved in a car accident and her father was blamed. They were told to pay 80,000 as compensation. 80,000 wasn't enough for her mother's sickness. But the situation just got worse then. Her brother got into a fight with someone and beat them severely, and the person asked for 100,000 as compensation. Her brother was still at the police station while they spoke. Just when she didn't know what to do, her friend from college Xianxia found her. They were pretty close, and in that moment of helplessness, her opinion was very important to Su Wei. Xianxia suggested that Su Wei could go to bet stone to the antique street. If she bought a stone with good jade inside, she could become a billionaire. Su Wei listened to this, gathered all the money she had, around 120K, and followed Xianxia to this place. Under the instructions of someone who her friend had introduced, her 120K were thrown into the water. In her despair, Su Wei was crying in the toilet when she heard Xia Fangfang's conversation with someone else. The person was telling Xia Fangfang that her classmate was too poor and the money she had was too little, that it was a waste of her time. It was then when Su Wei realized that Xia Fangfang was conspiring with someone to cheat her. Su Wei was sad. She had nothing else left. She wanted to find Xia Fangfang, but she had been looking for a few days and she was nowhere to be seen. Her mother was running out of money at the hospital and her brother was still counting on her for the bail money. Su Wei knew no one in Jin City and couldn't borrow from anyone either. In her sadness, she had only left to cry there. Yemo heard this and shook his head. She could even scam her friend. What else was she capable of doing? Xia Fangfang's character was undoubtedly a big load of trash. How much money do you have left? Yemo thought and asked. 200 left. Su Wei sniffed and said. He knew Su Wei was strong-willed and had great self-esteem, so he didn't want to lend her money. It would put a lot of pressure on her. Su Wei, if you trust me, take your 200 and come bet stone with me. Yemo smiled. He felt it wasn't easy to make that sullen girl go back to her happy self. Su Wei was the first person he had known here. She looked at him and said, Yemo, I only have 200. How could I bet? Yemo smiled. 200 means that there are 200 ways of betting. Follow me. Yemo took Su Wei into the crowd. He scanned their surroundings. The cheapest was $500, but they were all empty. Yemo took Su Wei to a middle-aged man sitting on some rocks. Looking at his gambling addict look, Yemo was speechless. No matter how rich you were, if you didn't know how to bet on these rocks, you would lose everything. Betting rocks was very exciting but also very brutally realistic. When you bet, everyone comes to watch you, but when you lose, no one pities you, and they just leave to watch the next person. When you win, however, people envy you. In fact, perhaps those people who bet rocks enjoy those envious and shocking looks the most. Yemo walked over and patted the man's shoulder. Friend, are these pebbles yours? Can you sell one to me? The man looked at Yemo in confusion. These are waste rocks that I opened up. Why do you want them? If you want one, just take it. Thank you, but I don't like taking people's things for free. How about this? I'll buy one for $200. Then Yemo signaled Su Wei to give her last 200 to this man. In the eyes of this man, $200 wasn't even something he would bother picking up from the ground. But he understood that betting rocks always needed to involve an exchange. He didn't think much of it and nodded. Then he stood up. All right, I must try one last time. If I still lose, then I'll stop today. Yemo picked up a pebble which he had scanned before. There was some green jade inside, but it was small, and thus the man didn't find it. This sort of thing probably happened often. Unless you had spirit sense, you would never be able to find out. Seeing Yemo buy a pebble for $200, everyone shook their head. If it wasn't for the fact that that middle-aged man was so well off, people would have thought that Yemo was conspiring with that middle-aged man to trick Su Wei. Su Wei looked at Yemo's stone worriedly. Yemo, is this stone useful? Of course, open it. Yemo took the stone to the place meant for opening stones. Who can help me open this stone? Yemo said, and everyone just looked at him. No one wanted to reply. Who would want to open a useless rock? There were certain customs to the gambling, one of which said that if you opened a rock and it contained jade, it made you lucky. However, Yemo looked ferocious and didn't seem like a good person. What if he blamed the stone being empty on you? Brother, you don't need to open this stone. There's nothing inside for sure. I, on the other hand, found a top grade, or this time for sure it's black on the outside. There must be something good inside. I just found it. Watch me open it later, the middle-aged man said. Yemo looked at the stone he was pointing at and knew it was an empty one again. He pointed at a fresh-looking rock and said, You might as well buy that one. There's something inside there. The one you're pointing at is empty, and the other one is much cheaper too, being only 100K. The middle-aged man had helped him, so he helped him back. But as soon as Yemo said this, there was ridicule all around. Even Su Wei pulled Yemo back a bit. Brother, are you okay? That one doesn't even have a shell. It's clearly a new rock. If it wasn't that it's so big, it wouldn't even be able to sell for 100K. Brother, you're even worse than me in looking at rocks. The middle-aged man shook his head. Emo smiled and didn't say anything else. He took out the $200 pebble and asked, "Who can help me open this? I will pay you $500. I'll do it, as long as you keep your word." A shabby-looking man walked over. No one was surprised when this man came out. Everyone there knew that he was called Huoduokai. He was someone who opened rocks, but since he had never opened a rock with jade for anyone, he was clearly very shabby. Even the boss didn't want to really use him for opening rocks. There was a rule in the business that if you opened a rock and found jade, as the person who opened it, you would get a tip. Emo didn't care about the man's supposed lack of luck, but in order to definitely grasp this opportunity, Huoduokai actually said, "Don't worry. My technique is top grade." Okay, open it then. No need to ask me anything until you get all the jade out," Emo said. Huoduokai took the rock from Emo's hand and immediately began to work, fearing that Emo would regret. Huoduokai didn't fully realize what Emo's words implied, but everyone else did. This knife scar guy was pretty cruel, wasn't he? He was implying that Huoduokai had to keep opening up the rock until there was jade. But what if there was no jade? Some people wanted to remind Huoduokai, but looking at Emo's ferocious look, they didn't want to get into trouble. "Emo, I don't have $500. Su-wei pulled Emo to the side. "Don't worry, you don't need to. Just deduct it from the jade's earnings," Emo said. Huoduokai knew there was going to be nothing in the rock, so he cut right from the middle and didn't even bother cutting it carefully. Emo shook his head. The guy had said his skills were top grade, yet this one slice had already cut a bit of the jade. "Huh? It's green, bright green. It's good stuff." And Huoduokai cut a bit off. "It's an ice-type jade." No one remembered they had laughed at Emo before, as they were all just looking at the jade in Huoduotsai's hand. Huoduokai knew that due to his negligence, a bit of the jade had been cut off. He began to sweat. He didn't expect there to really be jade inside. What if the man asked him for compensation? "Hurry up and cut it all out. If this happens again, I'll let someone else do it." Emo saw that Huoduokai was dazed, so he reproached him. Yes, boss, this won't happen again." Then he began to carefully take out the jade. He didn't expect Emo to be so easygoing, though. That had been completely his fault. Luckily, he reacted fast and his skills were actually quite good. In a short while, he had completely cut out an ice jade. It really is ice jade. It's very high purity, and the green is very dense. A jade like that would be worth almost 200K. That middle-aged man also looked at Emo in shock. Suddenly he felt that he should have listened to Emo. If Emo could find jade in his leftovers, he must be extremely capable. "I'll take that jade, 200K, a woman said. This was a woman in her early 30s, and she looked not bad, mainly because she knew how to dress well. She looked very seductive, but in a high-class way. She also had a bodyguard by her side. Emo frowned. He didn't like the smell of the woman. It was all chemical perfume. He didn't like that. He preferred the natural smell from Luoying and Ningqingxue. 200K? Su-wei was stunned. She had made 200K from $200. This was too easy. Emo didn't know the worth of this jade and thought it should only be worth that much. So he tossed it to the woman. "It's yours. Cash or check will do." The woman had seen Emo frown and thought he wasn't happy with the price. But just when she wanted to say something, Emo tossed the jade to her as though not even caring if it would break on the ground. "Emo, let's go. I already have 200K. I think I can bail my brother out of jail with this." Su-wei didn't want to waste the money there. Emo waved his hand. "Wait, this is just the beginning. We need to keep going and buy some more expensive ones." Su-wei hadn't realized that Emo might be unsatisfied with just that. "Brother, you probably want the rock you suggested me." Now, even the middle-aged man looked differently at Emo. Emo smiled and shook his head. "That one isn't up to my standards." The man was at a loss for words. He had suggested him something that wasn't up to his own standard. Emo patted him and smiled. "Don't worry. I'm simply saying that the jade inside is worth at most 1 or 2 million. That's not enough for me." Ha! Everyone was dazed this time. He could get 1 or 2 million for 100K. But he still didn't think it was enough. Who did that guy think he was? If he hadn't found jade in discarded rocks, people would be looking down on him again. The woman heard Yimo's words and rolled her eyes. She suddenly said, "Since Big Brother isn't satisfied with such a small amount of money, I'll take that rock." Then, she signaled the man next to her, who looked like her bodyguard, to buy the rock. Yimo's impression of the woman changed. She hadn't assumed he was bluffing like everyone else and bought the one he suggested. She wasn't a simple person. Although 100K wasn't much, it was still money. But she actually spent it just because of a stranger's words. She had brains. A few other people were also interested in buying it, but they weren't as fast as the woman and also feared that Yimo was a fraud. Yimo then said to Huaduokai, "Follow me. I still have more jade for you to open." "Yes, boss." Huaduokai could also tell that Yimo was someone who was truly capable. Looking around, Yimo was speechless. Although there were a lot of rocks there, not many contained jade and much less good quality jade. He pointed at a 200K piece of rock and said, "This one has the best jade for the price of 200K. He bought it quickly and the rock was in Huaduotsai's hand again. The middle-aged man lost again, so he started to believe in Yimo's words and he stopped buying rocks. He decided to follow Yimo instead. Many people started to look favorably at Yimo and all circulated around him. The woman was also watching them. Yimo saw that Huaduokai was cutting it very carefully, so he just drew a line and told him to cut from there. Huaduokai followed Yimo's words without hesitation and he sliced right where Yimo was pointing. A bright and eye-catching green was exposed to everyone's eyes. Yellow-green. That's at least a few millions. When it came out, everyone yelled out in shock. 5 million. I'll take it. People immediately started naming prices. Although the full price might not just be that, Yimo didn't want to keep wasting time. Just when he was about to sell it, the woman said, "I'll pay 8 million. Deal." Yimo immediately told Su Wei to give her bank details to the woman. The woman was straightforward and transferred the money immediately. Su Wei was in a daze. She had suddenly gotten 8 million, but Yimo pulled her away. "Are we leaving?" Su Wei asked. Yimo smiled. "There's one more. After this we'll leave." Yimo looked at a huge rock on the left side. It was the size of a tall man. Its price was 6 million. While Yimo was buying this stone, the woman completely opened the rock Yimo had sold her. She had hit the jackpot. It was at least a few million. Moreover, the one Yimo had given her before had also been opened. It was a jade fetus worth almost 2 million. Everyone gasped for air. Who was that bearded man? How was he that powerful? He had a 100% success rate. Everyone was paying attention to the rock he had bought for 6 million. Also, that young woman had become the second person who had earned the most that day. Su Wei had calmed down a bit, but her heart was still skipping fast. The stone Yimo had bought had been there for almost a year, but because it was too expensive, the boss had lowered it from 10 million to 8 million. Still, no one wanted it, so they lowered the price to 6 million. Finally, someone bought it this time, and it was a legendary rock gambler. More and more people gathered in the square. Among them, there were many wealthy men and bosses. They had all heard that there was a legendary happening taking place there. A bearded man had taken a simply dressed girl to bet, and they hadn't lost once. They started with $200, and now their earnings were worth more than 10 millions now. Everyone was waiting to see if the rock contained jade. Everyone wanted to see if the legend would be even more incredible. Huaduokai was also shaking. He had never received that much attention. After this, even if he didn't get paid, there would be a lot of people asking him to open rocks. Under Yimo's guidance, Huaduokai cut the rock in the middle. The crowd was in a frenzy. It was as though the jade was theirs. There was a large piece of green where Huaduokai had cut open. The green was very pleasant to the eye. People had never seen such a luscious green before. It was almost crystal clear. One cut. It had been just one cut, and there it was. A large pack of green. There was no bullshit, no rubbing. The cut was incredibly clean. It was impossible for Huaduokai to not have become famous. My God! Is that emerald? If it's emerald, How much is this big piece worth? But Yemo knew there wasn't much left underneath. He decided not to continue. If he sold it now, he could save money and get a good price. The woman looked at the emerald and gasped. She wanted to buy it, but she knew she didn't have enough money. Due to a limited resource of emerald lately, her finances were in a difficult situation. However, she believed that her business could open up soon with that bearded man's help. Friend, I'll take it for 50 million. A man who had just gotten there named a price without thinking. Boss Zhang, you're taking for yourself such a good thing. I don't think that's appropriate. Another fat man squeezed through the crowd. Okay, old pan, let's buy it half-half. Although he wanted it all for himself, that thing was too rare and everyone who was in the same industry there knew each other. He couldn't overstep the boundaries.